Did you?
Get kids draw on them and animals.
I don't have a box on mine, but you're saying so if I hold it up to the light, it'll be underground.
You from there, you got a box, then you hold it up to the light, and the box goes all the way around.
I don't have any lights. I'm not checking all around.
Real nice, real faint, but it's there. And it runs right along the edge on both sides of it. Then you've got the contractor's on there.
It's a box already.
Yeah, that's obvious.
Boxes everywhere.
Yours has got a box that's real on
No,
it
it's
too.
not.
You don't even hold it up.
No, I got on the post box.
Box.
Yeah, well, it'll explain us why they're
It's
asking
not
you
too
what
big here, we still got a few things to take care of.
No, take that.
And I always say that.
Yeah, because you guys are asking a lot of questions. We're getting in, see, the seminars get into 12 hours when there's, but we have about 40 people, and there'd be a lot of questions. There'd be people on, you guys talking like 100 miles an hour. There's not a lot of interruptions, so we probably done about 7 o'clock probably. And I got to get over a lot of, when I got a small group in it, I always can talk through lunch and I can answer a lot of questions. We can cover a lot of territory, get through a lot of subjects that you normally wouldn't get exposed to. You guys can always do your, whenever you do small groups in it, I always take care of special problems. You guys get special IRS situations or special trusts or whatever. Pays the order up. By the way, I opened a savings account at the Marshall & Lindsay Bank in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I walked in there and I said to the lady, I said, I'd like to open a savings account. She said, okay. I said, oh, by the way, when you put my name in your computer net, your bank is going to shut down. And she goes, what do you mean it's going to shut down? I've been here 12 years. No one's ever crashed my computer system. She says, yeah, I said, but I know. I said, well, when you put my name in your computer, it's going to shut down your bank. She says, no way. So she spends 25 minutes and she types in opens the whole checking account, the savings account, and I give her my deposit money. I says, before you push the enter key, make sure you call your supervisor so you don't get fired. So the supervisor comes over and she says, this man says that when I hit the enter key, the bank is going to go offline. We're going to shut down all the computers. She says, yeah, right. She leans over and pushes the enter key. And boop, all the screens go blank. All the calendars, windows, the whole entire bank president. So what the hell just happened? We have power failure? So the whole bank shuts down. 2 minutes later, the whole system boots and comes back up online. My account's missing. She goes, that's like a 1 in a million chance. She says, that's impossible. That's just coincidence. She said, come on in my office. I'll do it this time. So I walked into, those are old, Mom. Those are, throw those away. Those are old. Just tell you what you do is
your
go.
basic number on it.
No. Throw those, take those, just cut the flag off. Okay? Those will get you in trouble. Just cut the flag off those. Then you can just make a pin out of it, put it on hardback, and then you got something to wear in court. So anyway, the clerk then, the supervisor takes the paperwork. She goes in and she types the whole thing into her computer, and she says the colon won't go. It says, well, you hit Control-Shift-Enter. So she goes Control-Shift-Enter. She says, well, bad. She says it goes the colon went in your name. I says, now when you hit the Enter key, it's going to happen again. She says, no way. She says, once it was just a power failure. That was just pure coincidence. She says, call your bank president. Don't get yourself fired. So she went and got her bank president, called over, told the story that Mr. Miller says that if I push the Enter key, the whole bank's going to shut offline. And I just did it over there, and the whole bank went down. At that exact second, I pushed the Enter key. He goes, yeah, right. And he pushed the Enter key, leans over her, boom, the whole bank shuts down again the second time. He goes, once, maybe twice, physically impossible. There's something here. Come into my office. So he's got the mainframe computer. Spends another 25 minutes, puts the whole thing back into his, he hits the Enter key and shuts the bank down for a third time in an hour and a half. He goes, something's wrong here. Who are you, Mr. Miller? I says, you don't need to know that. Just go ahead and get my account back up, would you please? So he gets the phone, and he makes a phone call, and 10 minutes later, the whole entire system comes back up online. I mean, it didn't boot in 2 minutes. The whole bank stays offline, comes back up online. My account's missing. So he gets on the phone again. This time he grabs the red phone. I don't know what the red phone means, but he grabs the red phone. And he's on there talking to somebody. And all of a sudden my account pops back up on the screen. So I make my deposit. Everything's cool. I go home, come back the next day, 9 o'clock in the morning, to make my deposit with my book. She says, you don't have an account with us. I'm going, with me, not an account with you. So I go to the bank president, he says, well, I opened that account personally. He said, and he looked, it took him 45 minutes to get that thing back up on the screen. He was on the phone for 45 minutes. He was, on and off, on and off, on. He was calling all over the United States. But anyways, it popped back up on the screen 45 minutes later. It's been there ever since. Now, Wells Fargo and Norwest banks merged about a year ago to be the third largest banking system in the United States. When I did it to them, my name came back italicized. Italicized means correction of a misspelled word. It does not mean enhancement. It does not mean isolation. It means that it is a correction of a misspelled word. And they will not change my name to New Courier or New Times Roman. They leave it as italicized print. And they say, you want your account here, that's it, otherwise close it and get out. It's the only way the computer would accept it without crashing your system is by italicizing it. Yes?
I did it.
Because of the code.
Yes.
This is all because of the
And
code.
now I did it on my home computer, it crashed my computer system. That's probably why we're offline.
Really?
Me and a buddy of mine, we did it at First Federal and went through, but it's done in such a way that I think there's double spaces in between. It just doesn't, the way they do it is they put your name, and then I have to put my name, my first name, and then the hyphen, and then Brian, and then I have to put the hyphen at the end of Brian, and then Zelmer. They're all in like different places, but it didn't crash the computers. But that wasn't a central location. You went to the main bank, right? I was at like a satellite, one was at a grocery store. And
They've made a lot of changes in the system because this technology is filtered in, and we got students, hundreds of students all over the United States. Everyone wants their name punctuated now. They want
he can't get his
Stop.
checks though.
Huh?
They won't put a full colon in his checks. They'll put a hyphen, they won't put...
You can't do anything on the internet with a full colon in your name.
My new checks, they said everything has to be in capital. Mrs. Miller, you can sign it the way you want to, but we have to print it up this way.
That's because the name on the check is a trust. Now I'll explain to you what this means. This here is a trust document. I am a trustee, and John Doe is a trustee on the face of this document. It requires 2 people to make a contract. It takes 2 people to make a corporation with perpetual existence. The definition of incorporation is perpetual existence. When 2 or more people come together, they form a corporation. The corporation in this case happens to be the trust. The trust of the grantor, namely me, and the grantee, who is John Doe. He is the receiver of this document. Now this here happens to be a payroll check. On the payroll check you have a gross pay of $1,000, feds get $200, state $100, Social Security $100, and you have a net take-home pay of $600. Now John Doe says,
The amount of money.
40%. Yeah. So, John Doe, for 25 years, has been paying his taxes, been real cool about the whole thing, and all of a sudden one of his guys' buddies walks up and says, hey, I got the CFR, Code of Federal Regulations here for the IRS, and it says that people don't have to pay taxes. Taxes are voluntary. And here it says right here. So he takes it into his boss and he says, wait, boss, hey, look at this. It says here the taxes are voluntary. Well, I don't want to volunteer to pay taxes anymore. And his boss, not knowing any better, says, all right, but if you don't pay the taxes, the IRS is going to audit you and you're going to have to pay taxes at the end of the year. Taxes are voluntary. So he goes ahead and he says, we'll take the $200 off, take the $100 a day. Social Security is an insurance, therefore it's not qualified on taxes. And he goes ahead and he votes himself a $300 a week pay raise, and now he's got this nice little chunk of change. Well, he's got $300 a week. Now he's got a $300 pay raise for 50 weeks. He takes a 2 weeks vacation because now he can afford it, because now he's got a $15,000 a year income. The IRS will always let you slide for a total of 3 years, bringing it up to $45,000. Then they're going to tack on $15,000 in interest, giving you $60,000, and another $20,000 in late penalties, making it a cool $80,000 tax liability, exactly 36 months. And they will show up on your doorstep at the end of the 36 months with put up or shut up, or we're going to take you to jail. So he says, he goes, taxes are voluntary. And he says, that's right, taxes are voluntary for people. He says, but taxes are not voluntary for corporations. Taxes are not voluntary for trusts. The trust is a piece of paper. The piece of paper has on it money. And what is a corporation? When two or more people come together for a legal matter, which is this check, is a legal matter. And when two or more people come together for commerce, and there's money on this. So therefore, this becomes a trust document for commerce. And the trust, because it's making a profit as a piece of paper, corporation, must pay state, federal, Social Security taxes. You are the trustee, John Doe. I was paying your taxes for you before you got careless. You filed a W-4 with me saying that you don't want it anymore and that you were going to take liability. So I'm out of it. Now John Doe is responsible for the state, federal, Social Security taxes on the trust. And the trustee has to file a 1040-X for the trust every year. And because he didn't file the trust taxes for 3 years, he gets 3 counts of willful failure to file as trustee, which carries a 5-year prison sentence and a $5,000 fine for each 3 years. And the second count is every single check that he signed, which was 150 of them, he embezzled $300 off of each check as a trustee from the corporation because he didn't have authorization from the corporation to take the money in the first place as trustee. And so therefore he has 150 counts of embezzlement from the trust, which each carry a 10-year, $10,000 fine.
So he shoots himself.
So he's faced with, but they got it reduced down to, because the fiction is the one collecting, they only go under the 10% rule. So he gets, instead of 15 years, he gets 1.5 years for the willful failure to file in fiction. And then under he's got 150 counts at 10, so he gets 10% of that. So they round it off, they put you on probation, and they also give you 10 years in prison. And then you're on probation for another 10 years when you get out of prison. And if you miss one tax payment, you go back to jail for another 10 years. And that's where they come up with their 10-year prison sentence for not filing your taxes, because the trustee didn't pay the taxes on the trust. Pay your taxes, people, because you're not smart enough not to. Here's the second thing. Pay your taxes in the truth. That's a prepositional phrase making truth a noun. That means all the taxes you are paying must be defined as a noun. Every single sentence, of every single paragraph, of every single page of the IRS codes is written in verb. All. Under what language are you wanting me to pay my taxes? In what form are you wanting me to pay the taxes to you? Under what authorization do you have from either the federal government, the state government, the International Monetary Fund, Puerto Rico? You pick it. Where's your authorization written in the truth, in the noun, to give you anything for any reason? And what form of payment would you like to be paid in? Do you want to be paid in gold, which is a U.S. gold with 2 lines, or do you want to be paid in pesos? And pesos are 3,800 to 1. So if you owe $38,000, bring in $10. Bring them 3,800 pesos, so it costs you $10 to buy 3,800 pesos. Now, there's Argentina pesos, which are also called dollars. There are Mexican pesos, which are also called dollars. But they don't tell you how they're going to do this, correct? They make the presumption. Now, when they give you your numbers, let's say they want 10,000. They say, you owe that. Well, that's 10,000 beans, potatoes. What is it? 10,000 what? There's no symbol. So what do? They put the symbol over there. If the symbol is more than 2 character spaces away from the number, it's not joined. There's no continuance of evidence. So it's only your presumption that this symbol, peso, is affiliated with this number. And if you look at all the forms that you have, on every single audit, you will never see the number and the peso sign joining or touching. This must touch here. And then you can find any denomination, there's 4 denominations, which all use Federal Reserve note, pesos, to identify this here. Because all the money we ever received for debt credit borrowed for 30 years in the future, they have no real-time value. And because the documents, the words on the money were written in the verb in the first place, because they have United States of America, which says America is a verb, on both sides of the document are also boxed, it creates the fiction. So therefore, if your contract is written in fraud, it's not a contract under UCC 1. Therefore, you can't use fraud to pay it. So you go out and you buy yourself a money currency, which is a peso, which is actually written in a noun jurisdiction, and that's how you pay the truth. You're in compliance at 3,801. But remember, always pay your taxes in the truth. By paying your taxes in the truth, you don't qualify to pay taxes. But you sue them, not in the year 2000 for 1999. You sue them today in 1999 to pay your taxes this year for 1999 in the truth, with the full implementing regulations written in the truth. Now, if they give you the conformed paperwork in the truth, they must also inform the other 200 million Americans. And it was also correct the last 70 years or 69 years of income tax returns also. Because it was fraudulently conveyed, you got to get back the money they can't control.
Do it with a class action suit.
So how are they going to walk away with all the money out of the stock market there?
They're not.
It'd be dumb.
They don't get anything out of that. Here's a dilemma for you. See, that was just in yesterday's newspaper. Japan was in trouble. Japan Central Bank went out and bought they put $15 billion into the Japanese stock market to shore up business and increase the Nikon from 8,000 to 17,000.
Now, there's more to it than that.
Well,
Okay, that's fair.
when they put the $15 billion in, their investment came back at $32 billion, so they made a $17 billion profit. If they go to take the $32 billion back out, they collapse the stock market and they're right back to 8,000. They get nothing. So how do you reap the benefits without causing an injury and putting it right back to where it was? You can't take it out. There's a second scenario. September 17th is 4 weeks away. On September 17th, the trustee England cannot seize any more trusts in the United States. They will be out of the trust business. They will be out of the trusteeship business. Now, since March 1st, 1997 till present day, they have seized the trusts and put the money in the stock market to make it go up 6,000 points. What happens when you stop putting the fuel of $100 billion a week into the stock market? It won't go up. As soon as it doesn't go up, it's going to stabilize with the high cost of oil currently running. It's not going to take, the oil is going to trip inflation and they're gonna go to pull it out. When they go to pull it out, you're looking at a 5,000 to 6,000 point drop. And the IMF goes to harvest. They can't harvest the stock market without causing calamity. They've got to have their money out by October 29th. 70 years to the day to believe the stock market crashes to 29. So if you want to make some money, make sure you're short by September 17th. You pick the stock. IBM 121, short that, you should be able to buy it back for 21 in about 4 weeks. AT&T, you can pick it as fast as it falls. You can go from day to day, float it around, exponentialize your short selling. You can even go after options on the short ones. Exponentially 10 times that on the downside. Your math is working here. I can just see it. This guy's counting his money. You don't need a whole lot of cash right at this point in time when that happens, because you know what's going on and how it happened, where it comes from.
Where's the full disclosure on this checklist?
You enter into it when you sign.
Okay, I'm going to hold this one. I don't know if you can see this. See the back here? That little box? That's your contract. That's one of the contracts on the check. There's another one. Let's see where the other one is.
Original documents.
There's another one on the edge. Well, that one just says, of course, here. I don't focus. This is such tiny print. But they put that in a box. It says on there, this is secured by, there's supposed to be a face in there someplace, and there's supposed to be watermarks.
You can print it, and you'll see.
And the name, the line that you see here, that you just signed above, that line is in fact a contract. If you blow it up under a microscope, this is microprint on that whole line. Those are actually words. It's in that's 1 point print. I've got some contracts. You know, I can take the entire chart procedures of 1,000 words, and in 1 point print, my laser printer will print it on the back of my business card, and I'll have a complete contract on the back there, shrunk down that small. And it is, you can read it under a microscope, it is clear at 1,200 dots per inch is reading 11 point print. It's crystal clear.
Sure.
But you don't, my eyeball can't see it. You don't have to watch it with a glass or microscope to read it. But you can always carry your contract on the back. Now, take an ordinary sheet of paper like this, 8 by 11. As everything would just so happen to be, go 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 12. 12,000 words to be placed in 1 point print on the back of this. The average trust is printed in less than 12,000 words. 5,000 is enough. You go to 12-page or 28-page trust would come in at around 7,000 words. So you can take the entire trust, program it in your computer, and have it printed on the back of 1 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, and then you take this and you put it through a plastic laminator, and it will laminate, seal this thing, and lamination will make the print. It'll never destroy it because it'll be held in plastic, and it'll always be crystal clear as you can read it. Now that's a bonded trust, and you have everybody's signature and all your trustees sign in the bottom. And then you seal that and laminate it. That's a bonded, certified trust. You can have a regular workbook. Try to have, a workbook like this here, and ring notebook like I got here in mine. And see, I put this in plastic because of changes, any modifications that people request. But I put this all on disc. So you take, and this is not a trust because it's in a snap book notebook. You would have to take this and bond it like a book. We had bonded books in the room. Even this here, yes, this here would be a bonded book. It's a notepad, but because it's glued, this is classified as a bonded document. And you can make a trust on that because it has bonding on one side. Now there's two different kind of bondings. You can either glue the pages together, which is permanent. That's not permanent because those can be ripped apart. where you can stitch it, put it on a sewing machine, and sew it. I've got one in my briefcase there, which is a bondage. I'll show you what it looks like.
Don't they do that in the Supreme Court?
What's that? We sent some up to the Supreme Court that were stitched together like that.
Well, the bonding, you said they do that for Supreme Court cases.
Stitching.
Stitch them.
Yeah.
Stitch on door bond.
I've seen them stitched.
Your college graduate?
Really? Remember, you got that box that said you gave your own.
I got very soon.
Oh, I do too. That makes you smarter.
Print both sides. You're only allowed a maximum of 50 pages, 100 pages of print. The book can't be thicker than 50 pages. It's all physical pages. And this was one of our 1996. This was highly irregular. Now, the chief judge in the Milwaukee County, state of Wisconsin, what does that signature tell you?
He doesn't want you to know who he is.
No, it's got an ego. That's Judge Stadtmiller, Chief Judge. It's very bold, very big. It's like John Hancock signed the Constitution. Same thing, because everybody else
Big dog.
signs, yeah, I'm the big dog, so I'm going to sign a big
Did you pass
thing.
it around?
Huh?
You pass it around?
See, this is the CFR, but this is everybody who's everybody in the CFR.
You got it upside down.
In America.
Turn around.
Turn around. Oh. Yeah.
CFR.
Code of Federal Regulations, Tribunal Commissions, Bilderberger Commission, Rothschilds, all the big, these are all the Bilderberger power people in America.
That's a great document.
Yeah, this was a really, really unique thing. I should have this put in plastic. This is going to get damaged. The next thing I want to show you is when I told you Title 18, 1001, this is 2,800 cases on fictitious conveyance of language, most of which are against the IRS, using fraudulent language, and the cases were all won by the citizens. So if you want to go down and get the hard copy of this,
Since when your time span, what are you talking about?
What is that? What is it?
For
this
the,
is Title 18, 1001, United States Codes annotated.
Title.
18, 1001, Criminal and Crime Procedures,
What's
from
one?
the annotated version.
What's 1002 for?
What has the case?
1,000, this is all the cases, this is some of the cases that the Supreme Court has ruled upon in the last 70 years.
Yes, I mean.
Because we're under 70-year bankruptcy since 19.
Title. So.
Is this part of the reason why you go in court and they'll tell you that they don't go back beyond 1938? Court cases, some instances where Erie Railroad versus Hopkins.
Well, in the sanctuary of the bar, they can do anything they want. The judge does not have any restrictions. When we did the Lorenz case up in Stevens Point, Wisconsin, the judge went back to 1705. He spent all night, he even brought these books in, 300-year-old books from 1705, 1710, 1712. And he's got this big stack of these old books that are in plastic bags so that the elements didn't get to them. And he starts in and says, "Excuse me, Your Honor." I says, "Under continuance of evidence, we weren't alive then, therefore it's all disqualified." He goes, "Geez, I spent all night just trying to dig this stuff up. So we went back to England to find these laws out, that we could disqualify your whole case and shut you up so you had no jurisdiction." Now, this was a really neat thing in the case. District Attorney, he files a complaint. He says to the judge, "Your Honor, Mr. Miller's not an attorney. I hereby restrict him from participating in this trial." The judge says, "So be it. Mr. Miller, you will not talk to the defendant in this case." Defendant perks up and goes, "Your Honor, I'm not a defendant. I'm a respondent in a special appearance here today." He says, "So noted." He says, "In this court, we call you a defendant." He says, "I'm still a respondent, Your Honor. I won't accept that." He said, you're still not going to talk to Mr. Miller. So I'm sitting like this here. I'm not even blinking. Every time he asks Matt a question, Matt goes, he turns around and looks at me. I'm just still as a statue. I'm not blinking, he says. And Matt answered the question correctly. I can't understand a foreign language, Your Honor. This is the way I'm going to respond. Bailiff, this is I've been for the court's information, and he gave the information to the bailiff. Well, after about the 12th question, the judge says, hold it, he says, I can't prove it, he says, but Mr. Miller and Matt are having a conversation. He is defending this man in court, in front of me, but Mr. Miller has not blinked. He hasn't moved a finger. He is sitting there as stiff as a marble statue, he says, but there is a conversation taking place between this court, between him and Mr. Miller. He goes, you're qualified to go to trial. He says, I'm going to stop it right now, he says. But you're still not going to represent him, Mr. Miller. And I didn't even crack a smile. I just had no like a statue. I just moving it. Because he was just waiting me for a blink, twitch, scratch my ear, do anything. He's, you're practicing law without a license. You're giving hand signals. You're talking in sign language. Whatever you're doing, you know. So you just, I just knew there was something going on. Why?
Do I have the right to counsel, though?
Huh? No.
The right to choose counsel?
No. What did you just say to me? Think about what you just said.
It's a...
Right to. Future tense, you have
for the
no
right
present
of the
tense
counsel.
jurisdiction to anything.
Okay, you get my point, though? My Sixth Amendment?
Somebody brought it and gave it to me.
Is it the Sixth Amendment?
Which word didn't you understand?
I heard what you said, but I understand. But
In our Constitution,
for the
in
right of
our
the witnesses,
book,
counsel, and evidence.
when you file your lawsuit, in our Constitution, we in our Constitution, we incorporate in present tense your right of the counsel. And when the judge signs it, you're saying, Your Honor, I have a contract with the court, and I have a commercial contract, and it's been more than 5 days. It is a legal contract. I have a right for the choice of my counsel, and I hereby choose this man over here. He said, well, he's not going to practice law in my bar. He says, he is not talking to the court. He is my counsel, not your counsel, not his counsel. He is my counsel. He is my best friend. He will speak to me. Now, Wednesday I was at
You're also,
Yeah, so-
it's not his bar, it's your
It's
bar.
your bar. You paid for it. It's your contract. Right. So Wednesday I was in a family court deal. I went in for Eric, and Eric's wife had an attorney. The attorney immediately says, I want Mr. Miller removed from the court from the arbitration because he's not an attorney. Judge says, overruled. I know Mr. Miller. I know what he does. He's been in over 200 trials. He is the best friend of the respondent in this action. And so I'm going to appoint Mr. Miller to be the best friend and counsel Eric and watch over this case as he has just released his attorney. Now, his attorney handed him a document asking him to turn over power of attorney to his 401k, his pension fund, all his checking accounts, the mortgage, his car, title, 100% of all assets that he has possessed. He's 38 years old. And when I told the judge that we have a document, and I showed it to the judge says, I would file that with Wisconsin Judicial Board and bring this man up on charges because this is illegal. This is immoral for an attorney to take control of your assets so that he can control all the money. He was only after money. So we handed him a Title 42, which he dropped the case instantly. As soon as he saw what we were doing with the Title 42 stuff, he goes, you don't owe me anything. He says, I'm out of here, I quit. That's it. The judge gave him leave and he was gone. The attorney. Yeah. Then he won his speech. Because he would have touched the fee, we would nail him on fraud.
So I do have the right for the counsel.
Yes.
So I can choose whoever I deem worthy as my counsel. They can't go in there and tell the judge what is, but I can sit and talk to this person because they're my counsel. That's the way it's supposed to be in the first place, but...
Right. I can't talk to the judge. When you ask for me as counsel, I will be your best friend. I will talk to you only in whispers. I will not address the jury. I will not address the court. However, if I am asked to testify as an expert witness, I will take a stand, and from that position, I will take over the courtroom. And I've done that many times.
Yeah, but I'm saying if I saw...
Even when I went with you, I sat at the end of the table, but I got my foot in the door there, and I got free reign.
No, he knocked you down because we hadn't filed anything.
No. That day we were doing the arbitration with all the rest of the boys. He let me represent all you guys. The judge did. And speak for him. Because it was very informal. He knows what I do. Because if I was denied, I would have walked out of there and dropped 42 on him, and he wasn't prepared for that.
You did. You went up there to witness, and he said, shut up.
No, he did. I talked.
You did?
I sat at the end of the table.
For, about 5 minutes. And then he said, I don't want to hear it. And you said you couldn't do anything about it. And then the reason why is because we hadn't filed any paperwork.
Right. He was just seeking information. He knew exactly where I was going.
I never seen a judge get so mad in my life.
I think that's the only
That's a good sign.
Yeah. If you're stepping on their shadow and that, they're getting upset in it because they're getting nervous. You're on point.
Yeah, but I said I wanted you as my counsel, and he said no. He said you can't. And I said, well, it's my constitutional right. He goes, no, he doesn't have a license.
Contract.
He doesn't.
You have a contract.
I know.
That's
That's why he could walk all over me as he pleased. But point being is that I did have the right to it, and he did deny me that. I mean, I could have taken it back, would have gone through appeals, blah blah blah, whole pain in the butt.
He had so many points against him. He had to cut and run where he was at. You know what happened with your case? Your case got published. You weren't even aware of it. Your case got published.
No,
Now, we filed a writ of habeas corpus in Illinois, Chicago, Illinois,
I just don't remember.
against Lake County judge because he had kidnapped one of my students and put him in jail down there because he had information on the judge in the court. So we then filed a writ of habeas corpus, Title 42, in the Federal District Court of Chicago, Illinois. The judge personally hand-carried the lawsuit through after I got done filing it with the clerk, his personal clerk, and made sure the case was properly handled. He knew who I was, and he came out and said, oh, Mr. Miller, he says, you're here in my court. He says, I'm real surprised you came out and introduced yourself to me. I read a lot of your stuff. Not realizing what the lawsuit was that I just handed him, and all the implications that were tied to it. He then took your case cover sheet, your cover page, put your name on it, in the state of Wisconsin, unstapled the federal lawsuit in Illinois, took that off and put your case on top of it.
I don't understand
Then
why.
he stapled it back together, refile stamped it, and then sent out a letter of rejection to say he filed a Wisconsin case in Illinois, we don't have jurisdiction, case dismissed.
So my name was still on.
Yes, your name was still on it.
It's nice to be known by the judicial.
So then I called the judge up. I says, Your Honor, I says, thank you for accepting our lawsuit for signing a writ of habeas corpus. So he signed it. He says, you filed in the wrong court. I says, no, sir. I says, I have 2 copies, forensic blue ink stamped by your clerk and signed by you that the case was, the writ of habeas corpus was accepted. I also have the Zelmer case cover sheet, blue ink forensic copy from Franklin, Wisconsin. I says, where you stole off the internet a copy of it, forensically stamped it, and placed it on top of that document. That wasn't a mistake. We also called Washington to find out when you log on to the Lexus and what document you pulled off. We have a forensic copy from Washington that you were on the Lexus and absconded with this case and now attached it to this document to obstruct justice and misappropriating files under Title 18, 641, 646, and 656. I says, therefore, you have obstructed justice under Title 18, 15, 12, and used the fraudulent conveyance of language under Title 18, 1001 to obstruct this lawsuit in the first place. Therefore, by 9 o'clock tomorrow morning, if my individual is not released, then this here will have to go to the United States Supreme Court for obstruction of justice, and the Justice Department will follow up with it. 9 o'clock the next week, 6 o'clock the next morning, he was kicked out of jail saying, don't come back. And the writ was accepted, and the paperwork was all corrected, properly file stamped, the original paperwork was put back, and the man was set free. And I'm not really high on this point list, but I know how to walk the go with these people.
Where do you get the name Lexus from? Because
What?
it's in the,
Lexus and Nexus is the internet for judges. It is a classified
Where'd you get
internet
where'd you get the name from?
11,000 judges.
It
Hey,
exists.
Jason, could we move on to some of the things that interest all of us? Is that okay? I mean, this sounds like a personal consultation now, if you don't mind me
No,
saying
but-
so. I mean, I have some questions I'd like to ask too.
Sure. Yeah,
Okay, can we get back to the IRS? Because for me, I didn't understand what you're talking about. Sue them in 1999 for 2000 taxes. I don't know what you mean by that. So,
Oh, okay.
I mean,
This is real good. It's a good question too. All right, when we do if you want to file, normally you would file your 1999 taxes in the year 2000 by April 15th. I'm saying go ahead and get your tax forms. Now you can do taxes every quarterly. We have quarterly taxes. Now you don't legally have to file anything for this year until next year, but you can file this year for this year. And what I do is I file in December of 1998 for 1999. And I sue them to pay my taxes in the truth. I want to see their authorization that where the noun's presented as a noun. I take their language on their lawsuit, on their IRS forms, and in their IRS codes, I correct it. I identify the fictitious conveyance of the language under Title 18, 1001. And here's a numbering system I want you to copy down. This has been standardized throughout the United States.
when you say now these codes and so on, what are you talking about? I mean,
IRS codes, like Title 28,
I don't have
Title,
IRS codes. I mean, I don't know anything.
Title 20, Title 26, Section 7302, 7304, 7305. These are IRS codes for willful failure to file taxes. Now, the tax codes and those definitions are written in a verb format, where the words are identified as verbs. So what we do is we correct the language on theirs and then sue them under Title 18, 1001 for the fictitious conveyance of language. And we sue them in the truth with the statement, which is the last page of your book. Will you swear for the affirmation and for the declaration of the truth that all the facts in the IRS codes is in the truth? And we sue them to recover information from the IRS, and they will not supply it. We take it and we file a federal district court lawsuit with the judge, both state and federal, for those judges to order the IRS to supply us with documentations in the truth so we can pay our taxes and not commit perjury. Because the IRS codes, and all of you are familiar with it, when you sign on the signature line, it says you are signing under penalty of perjury. Where's the article? Under is an adverb making penalty a verb. Of is an adverb making perjury a verb. There's no such thing as a penalty perjury verb. So therefore, they ordered you to commit fraud and then sign to it. And so because you committed this fraud, they're saying you're joining with our fiction, therefore we'll leave you alone. But we're suing to pay our taxes in the truth. We want, under the penalty of the perjury, making these nouns. And we're suing them to sign the same document in a noun format
Now,
for full disclosure.
I understand the concept.
And what happens? They say you don't qualify.
For taxes.
And then the federal judge has to give you an order saying the IRS has failed to comply. I'm discharging your ability to pay taxes. Now, one we use as an adverb. Two is going to be a verb. Three is going to be an adjective. Four is a noun. Now these are used in the frequencies because these first three words are more obstructed, where they take the nouns and they create verbs and adjectives out of them, and they always modify it with an adverb. So you're going to wind up with a number program of 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Number 5 is past tense, which has no present tense jurisdiction. Number 6 is future tense. Number 7 is a pronoun. Number 8 is an article. Number 8 is preposition. Number 9 is an article, and 0 is a conjunction. Now, that would be and is your conjunction, or gives jurisdiction. And or are your two junctions, that's it.
Does or mean either one, or is it a combination of both?
It's a threat. Quit and pay rent. I give you a command. Quit or pay rent. Now you either move or you pay rent. If you don't move, then you must pay the rent, otherwise the judge has the power to evict you. So if you use the word and I had a very painful lesson about this, on December 23rd, we were evicting a family because they hadn't paid rent for 5 months. The judge says, here's your Christmas present, madam. She's got 3 kids. It's quit and pay rent is what was filed. Therefore, we don't have jurisdiction to evict you. Mr. Miller, they give us jurisdiction because they didn't use the word or. He has to use the word or to give me jurisdiction over the case. He gave up a secret to give her a Christmas present. But I learned a valuable lesson that I then passed on to 100,000 students.
Which is worth a lot more, right?
Right. So, in the interim, we were able to gain jurisdiction over that one issue, and that's a very, very, very big issue between and or when you really think about it. It's the difference between giving a judge power and not giving him anything. So if you put the word or in your trust, in a contract, in a lawsuit, anywhere, you just gave the judge jurisdiction. You put the word or in your trust, you just gave the judge jurisdiction over your trust. Because it is the one word then that creates controversy, and controversy means you can come into court. If you don't use the word or, write 2 separate sentences giving independent commands so that the trustee knows exactly what he's supposed to do. Don't give him an or, give him commands.
So you give
Everything is absolute. In math, you don't have a or, do you?
No thing.
Math is absolute. You either got it right or you don't got it right. There's no medium road here. That's why no one ever went to war over math. They always had an absolute to work with. There was no misunderstanding, no presumption, no assumption of what was going on.
because you've given a choice, and you
The minute you go to choice, you're going to have war.
You haven't designated who takes care of the choice.
You put 50 different religions in a room, you're going to have a war because you gave choice. You take away their choice and you give them procedure, you give them absolute, they will be complacent with each other because they know exactly what they have to do. Now, this has been standardized.
What's the list?
Okay, this list, these numbers are relevant to these words. These are the abbreviations. The reason that we incorporated numbers is when you write a sentence and you're using, if you have double spacing, like here, you got a big space, you can write words on top. If you look at these numbers, you Okay. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to use the number codes. We're going to identify what this says. This is a 1, 2. This is a 2.6 because it's in future tense. Have becomes a verb 2. Thus an adverb. 1. Authority is a verb. That gets 2. 2.6. 2 was a verb. 6 was in future tense. The future tense verb is shall. It's permission. It doesn't give you present tense jurisdiction. 2 is in future tense also, but this here is used as an adverb also, so it's a 1-6. Right becomes an adjective. 3. Checks is a noun. 4. Borrow is a 2 verb. Money is a 4 noun. And is a conjunction. Make is a verb. 2. Loans is a 4. From is a past tense preposition. So we got an 8. 8-5. Article would be a 9, and bank becomes a 4. So, who owns the bank? The International Monetary Fund. Who works for them? The IRS. Now, the assignment authority runs backwards. That means the bank shall have the right to make loans, borrow money, and write checks with authority of the trust. Guess who gets to take your money out of the bank? The IMF or the IRS without your permission, because you deposited your money through fraudulent conveyance into the trust of the bank because you used fictitious conveyance of language. Now what we're going to do is we're going to identify what this really says. Now this sentence, as simple as it looks, and you probably will find one of them in your existing trust, here is a 150-year prison sentence. She isn't that nice. You're a trustee and you get to go to jail for 150 years on top of it. Okay, this is an adverb making the trust a verb. There's no such thing as a trust verb, so therefore you don't have a trust. Shall have is in future tense. Is in future tense, which means there are no present tense jurisdiction for the trust to exist in the first place. The makes authority into a verb. There's no such thing as an authority verb, so you have no authority in fiction until you have a fiction trust. To write now is in future tense, which means there's no present tense jurisdiction to write a check. This is an adjective, it's a verb also. Adverbs modify verbs. Because once you go past the comma, to is now conducive as a continuation. This comma here says that whatever the prepositional phrase or adverb is in front of the last phrase, in front of the noun, must be repeated every time the comma appears. So, write, borrow, and make all become verbs under the adverb to. Rather than say, to write checks, to borrow money, to make loans, we use a comma to offset that. And is no more than a neutral conjunction to say, this is the last time we're going to use the entity. So, when you're going to write checks in future tense, if you go into the bank to write a check, you're writing a check against a fraudulent trust with no authority, so that's bank fraud, Title 18, 1341, which carries a 30-year, $1 million fine. It's also mail fraud under fictitious conveyance of names because you don't have a name, so that's another 5 years, $5,000 fine. It's a misappropriation of government money into a fiction, therefore, it's another 10-year, $10,000 fine under Title 18, 646. It also creates you don't have present tense jurisdiction to do anything, so therefore you're a fraud under the rules of fraud, both 60B, 9B, under the Federal Rules of Civil Procedure. That carries 50 years in prison. Those three combined. Also, if there's more than two trustees working together, you've generated conspiracy, which now carries a 10-year, $10,000 fine on top of that. So now you want to go ahead, and that's just for writing checks. Now you want to borrow money. You're using a fraudulent trust to borrow money and misrepresent the bank, that's your 30 years, and misappropriations. You're also pretending to have authority with a fictitious authority with a fictitious trust to borrow the money. Again, you're creating a second fraud. The making of loans says you're using a fraudulent trust to misrepresent your ability to make loans and practice banking without a license in the banking authority. So therefore, you get a 30-year, $1 million fine on pretending you're a bank with the authorization to borrow money and in terms of private contract using fraudulent conveyance with no authority. Therefore, you get 150 years of prison for this sweet little sentence. And where does it all get filed at? From the bank, which is in past tense, which never had present tense jurisdiction, because this is in future, shall have to, and now this is from. What's the first rule of sentencing in English? Simple, singular, one. We've got two different presentations here. We've got past and we've got future, but there's no present tense jurisdiction in the sentence. Point being, it's a trap. This came out of a $26 million trust. And the 6 attorneys who were involved with drafting this trust really took this guy for a trip. When he found out what was said, the IRS used this sentence in this trust to go out and start seizing trusts across the United States. His was one of the first ones that got hit because it was used at the seminar. They had a $26 million finance charge there to go after. Now everybody at the seminar was really upset when he did this. Both of the IRS attorneys hit the door and they locked elbows in the jam. And we both got stuck in the doorway trying to get out first. Who's going to get to the phone, make a phone call, tell all the secrets they just learned. It wasn't so funny the next couple of days when we heard that London just got clipped for $60 billion in trusts. Word got out on that real quick. What we're going to do now is we're going to fix this and change it, but you can see how the numbers, only an 894 is legal. How many 894s we got up here? Above. This is an 894, but it's got a 5, so there's no present tense jurisdiction, so it's automatically disqualified. So there is no noun on this paper, or authority, or assignment. It's fraudulent language. First thing we want to do is get rid of this here. We don't want the courts in there. We want a sovereign's trust that doesn't have any connection, no future tense. Everything has to have present tense jurisdiction. No haves, no this is those, that's thems, or anything else.
These dips and those.
Yeah, these dims and those. For the ABC Trust.
Now you can see would be your name or whatever, right?
Yeah, whatever the name of your trust wants to be. For the ABC Trust, has. Now, has and is are both singular. Are, if this said trust, for the ABC Trust, are. With the authority for the writing of the checks, for the borrowing of the money, and for the making of the loans by the trustee of the ABC Trust. Now, what happened here is the ABC Trust started the end of the sentence through the assignment of authority, and it started the sentence through the assignment of authority. Now, if you take this here and we break it up, we're going to go on to paraphrases. The right for the writing of the checks. This is set off as a single thought. For the borrowing of the money, another single thought. For the making of the loans, another single thought. Within a single sentence. Now I can incorporate for the driving of the car. Fill the filling of the tank with the gas. For the cutting of the lawn with the lawnmower. I can incorporate as many prepositional phrases under the single verb is or has. And I can put 10,000 word document and prepositional phrases, and I'd still be in the same sentence. And I wrote one sentence in the book that's 290 words long. The computer comes back and goes, long sentence. Probably make it 18 words or less. He says, but it is a proper sentence because it only contains 1/10 present tense. I have a logic computer at home, by the way. It reads 800 million bytes per second. The fastest Pentium on the market only has a 56K modem on it. 56,000 bytes per second. Mine reads 800 million bytes per second.
But there's a difference between processors and modems. You're talking about two completely different things.
He knows computers. But it's my unit, that little computer I got, is faster than those 266s with a 96 RAM. The thing just blows circles around all those guys, all those machines.
What you were referring to is you're sending and receiving data. Processing the data is done by the processor itself.
Well, this processor's got a crunch program with no spaces in it, and the thing just moves like crazy. Now, in this,
No.
if we write this backwards, we would then take all the ofs and make fours out of them. The buys and the ofs become fours.
No, you were wrong.
And the fours would become ofs and buys.
And if you don't
Even with is a,
don't purchase this at all.
but is a four, in reverse would be buy or of. So if I read the sentence backwards, for the ABC Trust, for the trustee, of the loans for the making of the money for the for the money of the borrowing, and for the checks of the writing, are by the authority of the ABC Trust. I just read it backwards and it says the same thing as it did frontwards. And I lost nothing in the sentence. Truth is written in a circle. My entire trust, every single sentence says that. Every single sentence can be written frontwards, backwards. Let's just pick it up in the middle. For the borrowing of the money and for the making of the loans by the trustee of the ABC Trust, for the ABC Trust has with the authority for the writing of the checks, period. Still says the same thing. Now, because I've got ABC Trust written second, I can move that any place I want, so that every time I start, it will start with ABC Trust and with ABC Trust. It is both the intent and the assignment of authority. Why does the sentence end in ABC Trust and not trustee? Because how does a trustee become a trustee? Because it's got a contract that made it a trustee. It is the assignment of the contract, and it's absolute. It gives you the specific authority to be the trustee in the first place. And that's the secret to this. Every one of the trust that is written in fiction ends the sentence with a verb. Gives the authority, wherever the authority is really, where the power lies, with the attorney, with the judge, with the bank, with the court, or with the lawyer. At no time does the trustee or the trust itself ever have any authority in the trust. So that they will always be able to arbitrate and take all the money out of the trust. Or they end the sentences that are critical with verb, which means there's no assignment of authority. It became dangling participles that are null and void statements within the trust. They only are fictions within your own imagination. Yes?
How hard of a time do you have opening up a trust account at a bank with...
These, the banker sits down, takes one look at this and says, I can make deposits in this. And we have bank indentures go along with this.
I have a little trust now, I'm sure this would be better to close it out and start something else, or do I have to revamp it?
To revamp a trust, this one here, we took an original trust, we had 9,600 mistakes when it was corrected. It took 50 hours to identify the mistakes. It took an additional 250 hours to restructure the intent of the document. And what we did is we took 7 separate trusts, 7 different trust indentures. We incorporated the best of all of them. This was over a 2-year period. So we have probably about 600 hours of correction time with the other trusts. And then picking out intents that were best. And another 300 hours of hard drafting to create this one trust here. And this one we asked $3,000 for. We had a man in Texas. He said he was been a trust writer for 25 years, has been my student for almost 2 years. Was very confident about understanding this whole program. So he was going to take a trust and rewrite it. He spent 700 hours to be 90% correct. The other 10% I had to go in and finish for him because he just couldn't get it after 700 hours. I divided it into 3, he was working for $4 an hour. He normally gets paid $60 an hour as a paralegal, but here he was working for $4 an hour because he wanted the experience. But after he got all done with it, he said it would have been better to start with a perfected trust like this. Even the IRS wants this trust because they've already taken it to court in Atlanta just 2 weeks ago. They tried to bust one of my trusts, and they said we can't violate the copyright. We will not swear an affirmation and declaration of truth that all the facts in our pleads are the truth. And the judge wouldn't even allow them to come into court with it. They said, you've got to protect the trust. The courts won't touch it. We can't break it. The IRS doesn't want to touch it. It's been moved offshore. International courts, nobody will touch it. No one will swear an affirmation of the truth under yellow print, which certifies fiction. And you got the damn copyright on there on top of it. He says, we want to buy your trust. You can't be broke. It's the first time that non-jurisdictional language writes in a circle and proves the intent of the contract. Now, what is unique about this trust is that it is a procedure trust. The trust goes ahead and it identifies the trustee's noun jurisdictional procedures for borrowing money, making loans, writing checks, conducting bail-in contracts, doing IRS, whatever it takes to do. He has noun present tense jurisdiction. It is the only trust worldwide in any language that translates. He's If you want this written in German, I just have to push a button on my computer and it will write it in German. It will write it in French, German, Russian, Chinese, I got about 12 different languages. Arabic, rhymes of Japanese, and also. So I can write all these different documents, and when you translate them back, nothing is lost. They have the exact translation back into the language. You can go from French to English, to German, to Russian, to Japanese, back to English, and you lose nothing going all the way around in a circle. When they did that, they realized that they had truth. And that truth is what excited them, because now they had a control factor. And now, for international trust, if a person wants to play around in the international theater, all the international banks and insurance companies can use this technology and use this trust. It gives them what they need.
You're getting more than that too.
Well, I had it down to 70 just to overcome it. And last bit of heat, boy, you turn it off in like 3 minutes. It's hot.
Are you the trustee?
I'm the creator of the trust. My copyrights stay with the trusts, no matter where they go, because my name is worldwide known under the copyright. Anybody that uses my trust knows that if there's any problems, you just got to pick up the phone, call my office, and we will defend our trust. We will defend the technology. We'll answer any questions by anyone who wants to,
So who's the trustee?
wherever you want to point it.
That's the problem.
The problem is that
Oh, you mean it's treated like a domestic trust then?
no, these trusts specifically give the trustee the ability, rather, let's do this.
Yeah, if you're ready, I didn't want to take it somewhere you weren't ready to go.
Well, the question is, you got a valid question. What we're going to do is put up here is a flow chart. And the flow chart will answer your question at the same time, and we'll put this very easy to understand.
Are the commas prepositional phrases or not?
What?
Commas. What is the definition of a comma? Like a full colon is a prepositional phrase.
Oh, a comma?
Yeah.
Interchangeable.
Okay.
In other words, it continues whatever is before the noun. If you have an adverb in front of a noun, you have adverbs after each one. You got a prepositional phrase that continues
If
the preposition.
I remember correctly, like you could put for the money, comma, and then
Colon separate nouns in noun jurisdictional thoughts. If you put a series of verbs together, you also put commas between your verbs. If you're going to use an adverb to modify a verb, you've got a whole string of nouns. They're going to all become, because they're comma separated, the adverb is each one of those commas and goes on and on and on.
what I was saying was that when you put the comma there, you could put like for the money, then comma, then wouldn't it go back and use the for the statement? And then it would add it to the next one? For the money, comma, car, comma, doesn't...
I'll put it in a different perspective.
Okay.
When we said for the writing of the checks, the writing is a condition of a check, so that's complete thought, 6 words, comma, for the driving of the car. You don't, for the driving of the checks, that doesn't make any sense. So, for the driving of the car is another complete thought, comma. Why can you place different ideas of writing checks, driving of a car, making of the loans, all in the same sentence? Because they are under a comma, for one, and number 2, they are under the word authority. We are giving you definitions of the word authority of what the trustee is going to do. So, in this phrase, when I say, for the ABC trustee is under the authority, with the authority, I can then, after the word authority, start with the preposition for, and use 6-word blocks of prepositional phrases for the driving of the car, for the writing checks. I can put 10,000 prepositional phrases and it would still be in the same sentence.
But what I was saying was, like, let's say you're saying for the authority of the writing of the checks is under the, and you want to list off like 6 trustees.
Then you can go ABC.
But
then you can do outlining. You can outline within your sentence.
My point is that when you do the comma, do you have to do another prepositional phrase, or does it link to the first? Because in your writing, that's the way it would seem. When you do a comma,
No, the comma separates thoughts.
but does
In
the
other words,
preposition go
table,
with it,
comma,
or you have to do another one?
comma, pen. These are independent thought items, but the comma sets off the noun of that thought.
So the preposition doesn't go along with it. So you'd have to do another one. That's what I'm asking.
No. The comma also incorporates the prepositions. For the table, comma, cup, comma, chair.
Which would mean for the table, and it would
For
also
the
mean
cup,
for
for
the
the
cup.
chair, for the
That's
so
what I
on
was
and so on.
asking.
The comma is the punctuation that represents the prepositional phrase.
Okay, that's
For the
what I was
other-
asking. If you could do that, or if you had to do a prepositional phrase every single time.
In other words, here's another one, and this is, like I said, it also separates verbs. As jumping, running, skipping, is, to, and then go into flying. See, here we've got an adverb modifying a verb, and an adverb modifying a verb. But the commas say that this is an adverb, this is an adverb, this is an adverb. Is becomes an independent verb, modifying a second condition of comparison, adverb now. And then I would go into flying, fast, too flying. See, the comma then becomes too. Just to give you an example. They use this when they get, they'll do this for games. Like this. The triangle is to, and then you got to connect the dots. And they use it in the same format this is geometry games, this here's word games. Comma is still relevant.
But in other words, the comma would represent, if you were to put as the comma would represent the prepositional phrase, and it doesn't have to be repeated or repeated or repeated.
That's correct.
Thank you.
All right, now we're going to go ahead and we're going to go into charts. This here is the grantor. The grantor is an individual who owns a house and a car. And he's going to go ahead and he's going to go with a creator. So I'm going to be the creator in this case. And the reason he came to me is because he trusts what I do, my language and the way I write. Now it's my responsibility as a creator to appoint a trustee, the first trustee. And the trustee is going to be under the contract of the trust. And this gives him his instructions specifically in noun, present tense, jurisdiction to do what it is he's supposed to do. He doesn't work under a to, and he doesn't work under a from. He doesn't use future tense or past tense. He is in present tense jurisdiction with the authority, in the truth, at all points of operations. This gives him control of what he's doing because he's under contract. The courts have no remedy to get around this. That's why my trusts have been declared boilerplate, as we call it in law. Now, the trustee is going to create a bailment contract. Now, you go to jail, you post bail. What are you doing when you post bail? You put up security to get money, to pay your fine, to get out of jail. The bail does not mean the bailment man, the bailor owns your house. It is merely he has to keep it safe until the loan is paid back. If you default, then he has to go through a legal process to recover it. Another individual you associate with every single day of your life as a bailment manager is your local police officer. He doesn't own your house, he doesn't pay your taxes, he doesn't cut your lawn, doesn't shovel your snow. He makes sure that your property stays safe. He has no legal contract to you in any way, shape, or form, except that you pay taxes so that he watches to make sure your property stays safe. Another bailment contract would be your fire department. They are there to make sure your house doesn't burn down, to set up rules and regulations and police the safety factor. An insurance agent would be a bailment contract because he is creating a contract to protect contract from fraud. But what does he write? He writes fraudulent contracts. It's kind of an oxymoron. But the point is, who do we pick to be the bailment contract to take care of the house, cut the lawn, shovel the snow, and put gas in the car so that everything works smoothly? Plus the grantor. He's going to become the bailment contract. Now, when the grantor places the property into the trust, he has removed himself as the owner of that property. The trust now owns the car and the property. In exchange for that, the trustee is going to give him 100 units. And these units are called certificates. And they have a zero par value. The reason they have zero par value is if you put any value on them whatsoever, then you have created an alter ego with the trust, and therefore it's not a trust. It's no more than an alter ego. The zero par value, though, of the units, of the certificates, have specific information, though. If the trustee dies, the trust has 45 days. And in this 45 days, in the 45 days, if the trustee, or rather if the creator cannot appoint a new trustee, then the trust goes back to the grantor. That's a law that's 2,000 years running. All right, now let's say our little friend here, the grantor, gets into a car accident. He gets a $100,000 lien placed against him. Now, as long as his house and his car are over here in trust, the lien holder cannot go after the grantor and take the house, cannot go after the trust. It's a separate, protected entity. Now, let's say the grantor now leaves the creator leaves the organization. He's no longer affiliated with the trust. And the trustee either quits, dies, for some reason he is removed. And there is no creator. Whoever controls 51% of the certificates will now be responsible to appoint the new trustee of the trust, as he is the only person who will act in the best interest of the trust. This is a worldwide law. All 250 nations use this technology. So the trust, the grantor with his certificate units will now find a new trustee. My trust also incorporates the fact that it is a man who must have knowledge of the difference of what truth is and what fiction is. He is a man that must, or a person, who must be fluent in understanding truth, be able to write it, read it, and defend it. He must watch the videos of this program, as well as study the book and become a trustee of these trusts. These aren't just something you say you're it. If you don't know what this program is, you can't be the trustee of this trust. This trust also incorporates a Title 42 lawsuit that is customized specifically for the fraudulent conveyance of language to go after anybody that would tell a lie or use any deception in any way, shape, or form in any language on the planet to invade the trust and violate the truth that exists within this trust. It has its own defense mechanism. And the trust also polices its own conduct of the trust, so that no one can ever create a fraud within the trust or create any language that would cause a deception against the trust. It has a defense mechanism built into it. Safeguards, as you would put it. And everyone has tried to punch a hole through this thing. Other trust organizations, the IRS, federal district courts, everyone, international courts, in all languages and it loses nothing, it's hands off. This is the only perfected trust on the planet right now. Now, it doesn't give you a lot of detail about what your property is. That's up to the trustee. But it gives you the procedural authorization to be that trustee, to make these decisions, for you to write in the minutes what's going to happen, what the name of the car is going to be, what the name of the property is going to be, how it's going to be placed into the trust. But the language used to be placed into the trust must also be in conformity with the rest of the language of the trust in the truth. Prepositional phrases supporting the nouns.
Are
Now-
there people besides you? In other words, I don't know the parts of speech, and I want to fill in the blanks, so to speak, and I can't give to you. Is there anyone else?
Yeah, we got about
trained?
on a need-to-know basis. I would put anybody that wants to get a trust in contact with people to be trust managers that are very honest, very knowledgeable people. And the unique thing about this technology is you cannot lie. No one can enter this technology and commit a crime against you. There's no way that they can deceive you. There's no way that they can trick you. Once you've seen this course, you can trust the person sitting next to you because there's no way he can ever deceive you because you know how to read and write the truth. So you can see them coming long before they ever get there. And that means the only people you can trust are the people in this room. And you know, all over the United States, you can go to any one of my other any one of my organizations in 69 cities and sit down with those guys. The minute they see my badge or they see you got my card, you got instant friendship with these people. It's like a secret organization of truth. And these guys, you can walk these guys through the keys to their house because they know there's no way you can cheat them, steal from them, or do anything ill to them because you can prove it lock, stock, and barrel and prosecute it. These guys are very up to speed on what's going on, which is a really good feeling.
How many are there in Florida?
We estimate about 400 right now. 400 people in Florida.
You have groups?
How many are?
We got Fort Lauderdale, we got Tarpon, Orlando, we got a big group up in Orlando, Jackson, Daytona Beach.
You got one in Jacksonville?
Yeah, we got people all over the state. They come in from all over.
Is there someone I can give me a name later on?
In Orlando?
Yeah,
No.
Jacksonville.
Yeah, we gotta go to the database to get that.
Did you say Don Rossi?
Don Russell in Orlando. He does my seminars up there. He's been with me for 3 years. He's put on a couple seminars up there.
Clearwater.
He just drove down last night. We just spent the whole evening yesterday he picked me up at the airport. And these guys we met last night, that was Ross. The other guy, he's a banker. The trustee, in the event that the grantor cannot find anybody in 45 days, this $100,000 lien goes directly, he collects the house and the car. That's why it's important to maintain not only a first trustee, but a second or third trustee that are up to speed, and you keep those guys tucked away. Another thing that this trust does, it says only a person that you would regard as a friend is who you would pick as a trustee. Because a friend is somebody that doesn't ask you why and doesn't judge you. He supports you, and because this individual has studied this technology, you know that he's not only a friend, but he's an honest individual. He can't tell a lie, can't be involved with lies. And so this is a person you would always be comfortable with to manage your trust. So, what happens here? The grantor becomes the bailment manager under contract. Because the grantor is going to live in the house, drive the car. He will not, however, handle any money. He does, however, pay back to the trust $1,000 a month in the form of rent for the driving of the car and for the living in the house, besides taking care of everything. Even though the trust is the property's in trust. Now, this here, the trustee is going to be responsible for taxes, for insurance, for maintenance costs. He'll have, let's see, taxes, we're going to give probably $300 Insurance is probably going to be $100. Maintenance cost is going to be $100 miscellaneous. You've got interest. You got principal. Interest might be 200. Principal might be 100. That's 1, 3, 4, 5, 8. And over here, you've got your beneficiaries. A beneficiary gets $100, and the trustee gets $100 as for operating expenses to manage the trust in its entirety.
What is the beneficiary doing for $100?
Well, that might be your kids. It just goes into another trust. This here would be a beneficiary, but this here would also be a trust. And this money is held in trust. It might be a college fund. It could be a school fund. Maybe for medical. You could pick the subject. Your contract will allow you, as the trustee, to create this benefit of this trust. This might be another trust. Could be a church. And so, everything is properly broken down. The instructions are given to the trustee, and he has now an authorization to handle the money. Okay, now, this here, the car is going to be trust number 001. Car is going to be in trust number 002. The money, that's this $1,000, is going to be in trust number 003, and it is the money trust that pays trust number 004. So what happens? These two are both isolated. Trust number 004 is where the money goes, because this man here, or this trustee, is going to create a money trust. He's going to also have trust number 005 for clothes. He's going to have 006 for furniture, 007 for a tractor, lawn tractor, and the only thing these are holding trusts. They don't generate any money. They do nothing. So that when this property goes in, let's say there was an accident and somebody sues the house trust. What are they going to get? They're going to get the house, but the trust for the land is on a separate trust. So you can't do anything with the house.
They're not going to get the house, though.
Huh?
They're not going to get the house if your trust is any good.
Well, let's say somebody fell down the steps in your house.
Yeah.
If the trust is, no, this is what a perfected trust. Let's say somebody physically fell down in the house and he sued the house. It would be responsible for the insurance. The trustee would have to contact the insurance company to protect them. But let's say the injury superseded the policy for some reason. And also there was a liability against the house physically. They could only sue the trust policy of the house. They could not sue the bailment, the grantor. They could not sue the car. They could not sue the money account. They could not sue the clothes, the furniture, the lawn tractor. These are all in independent trusts. And how difficult is it? You hit shift print, and you change one number, 001, 002, and the trust kicks out a brand new trust. And you put that article only in that trust. The Rockefellers, they got 1,200 trusts, all identical. And each one has a serial number on it. Would you like to see another trust? There's your serial number right there, the green. That is the serial number of this trust document, and it is the only one like it. If this trust document is responsible for a crime or for fraud, you can sue this single trust document. But you can't sue the other one I've got in my pocket. They are independent.
So
That's the secret.
What am I buying from you?
You're getting the parent trust. You're getting this document that has all the language laid out that now creates you to be the grantor, to go to your friend and say, you're going to be trustee, you have to know this technology, and now you're going to take the house and it's going to be registered under this trust name. Let's say call it Johnson's Trust 001. And the house goes into Johnson's Trust 001, but Johnson's Trust 002 contains money.
How do I get 002?
Just get the shift print on the computer. You get a computer disc, prints out a new
Oh,
one.
you got a computer disc, so you
Yeah.
don't say that. Okay,
Oh,
that's what I'm
sorry.
asking. I'm trying to understand what you're saying.
Okay, it's identical to the first one except for one difference. The name of the property, this one says your clothes, this one says your couch, this one says your car, and so on. And it only costs you the amount of paper to print it, once you got it to format down.
Okay, so you've got a
And you
generic,
could put a whole stack, you have 100 trusts.
you got a generic
Does-
form that you.
Yes.
Does
And if
that,
they sue one, that's all they get, nothing else gets touched.
I understand that.
You can take a portfolio with $100,000. Instead of putting $100,000 into one trust that leaves it vulnerable, you produce 100 trusts with only $1,000 in each one of them. Now, if they get one, they got to go through just as much legal problems to get to trust number 2 as they did to do trust number 1.
And you've got the trustee physically handling the payments? Is that what you're saying?
The trustee will physically be managing that trust lock, stock, and barrel.
He's got to do the work.
Yes, he has to do the work.
Can't get around that?
That I'm aware of. Trustee, that's what he does. He does the work on the trust.
I don't mind. Trustee doesn't do them on my trust. I do.
You can't be you can do the work and you can sign it as long as they don't know that. But he is the operating entity that runs the trust, as a trustee.
So you're not able to manage your own trust?
No, because then you're an alter ego and you don't have a trust. And I
I know
guarantee,
that's a problem.
yeah, in a minute the government finds out that your signatures and all your names and everything you're doing is you are actually the managing entity of this trust, they're going to say it's an alter ego and you don't have a trust. And based on what I know, if you showed me at random, and this is what people do all over the country, they say, Mr. Miller, how do I know I've got a fraudulent trust? I don't even want to tell you my name over the telephone. I says, tell you what, you send me one paragraph at random. You pick it, your trust. You just shoot it to me over my fax machine, I'll correct it and send it back to you. And when you get it back, you'll see that you might send me 60 words in that paragraph, but you've got 65 mistakes. Now, if you multiply that by the number of paragraphs, you will now make a determination as to how many mistakes you have in your trust. Number 2, everybody has a fingerprint. It's unique. Everyone writes with a unique style of writing. And when a person creates 65 mistakes and 60 words on a paragraph, I can guarantee you the entire document, all 10,000 words, has probably got 11,000 mistakes in it. Because that is his style of education. Yes?
I know there has to be a number, but does it have to be a 001 or?
You can make it any number you want. You can call it ABC, you can call it XZY trust.
No, I'm talking about the number. Could you just put 1 or do you have to?
He's giving you 999 options.
Variations.
The
It's
trust
not
has
just
the same name?
It's random choice. You can do
The
anything
trust
you
has
want.
the same name on all those?
If you have the same name and you're changing the serial number, it keeps it easy to say this is all affiliated, but it's all different.
And that's okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So you can't keep the name the same?
Sure.
But just change the serial number, and that creates legal separation?
Exactly. Just like your money. Everything's identical on the money except the serial number.
You made the point, yeah.
And that's where it becomes different. And it says it's a note. What is a note for the trust?
I've got a question.
Sure.
How do you move the property into the trust? Like, for instance,
Oh, you use a quick claim deed. You have to write a corrected quick claim deed. State has quick claim deeds already printed up. You get them over at Kiko's Office Max.
they're all fraudulent.
They're all fraudulent and they're boxed because by reallodial, there is no such thing as an allodial title in the United States. All of your mortgages in the United States are what's called a rodeo title. Rodeo title is spelled R-E-D, R-O-E-O. Rodeo. It's a rodeo title. It means to sit upon, just like you sit upon a horse.
As opposed to what's alluding to.
Allodial means original. But there is no such thing because the United States, since it became the Declaration of Independence, adverb, didn't declare anything to anybody compliments of Benjamin Franklin. But he was just a press man. He didn't do anything wrong. He was in fact a square.
Okay, I was carrying that a little further. Okay, so you do the quick claim deed and it comes into the trust. to be moved into the trust for someone else, like for instance, your grandfather puts it in trust for their grandchildren, that kind of stuff, and then the trustee ends up being a third party. What happens in that transaction in terms of like the grandfather or even
Trust, okay, since 1770s, since 1789, the trust was created to harvest America, to store all the wealth, because people were told, well, to put it in trust, it's tax-free. That's because you just gave it 100% over to the International Monetary Fund, so why should we tax what we already own? Because everyone was instructed to go ahead and get their trust from an attorney who works for the IMF, who works for the Queen, works for the trustee. The trust that the attorneys were in place to make sure that all the money was placed into the Queen's property properly. So currently the Queen has $40 trillion in assets in the United States, but what they didn't do is they didn't create the correct language. So the Constitution, Bill of Rights, Treaty of Paris, Declaration of Independence, all the trusts, all the contracts, lock, stock, and barrel from day one has been written in fraud, which means England doesn't own anything. The treaties of Guadalupe y Delgado, the Southwest, and the Hudson Bay Treaty of 1605, both signed the same year, were written in Burr. They were been declared disqualified on February 2nd, 1998. And the United States went out and seized the entire Guadalupe y Delgado territory, all the trusts, and all the land that was put into trust for 385 years. Isn't that special? And they used my technology to bust it and steal it, because one of my students is responsible for 5 million acres of church trust, and he has been for 35 years. It's all wasteland. But the government wanted it for military operations, and so now they seized it and they set up camp out there.
where's this at?
It's up in New Mexico, Arizona territory.
Where
Myrtle's part of it. Her land's up there. You know, there's something very few people know about New Mexico. It's a square state. Well, right here is a volcano, and that's the lava flow. That's no man's land. It's virtually uninhabited, this whole section. It's not that far over, but this here goes over, comes like this here. There's people along the rim of the volcano, but the fissures are 15, 20 feet deep, razor sharp lava rock that's thousands of years old. Nothing lives up there except some snakes and this one volcano here covers 1/3 this area of New Mexico, and the lava will flow down. When it rains, it can rain in a mountain 120 miles away down here. It can be clear blue desert skies, and you got tidal waves 10 feet tall coming down off the mountain, washing down through the valleys, wiping out everything. A friend of ours, Myrtle, she's got 20,000 acres down here. And these people, she sold some of her land, and these land developers came out and they set up these 3 subdivisions. She told, don't build your houses there, it's going to flood. You're looking, this is a desert, what do you mean it's going to flood? It hasn't rained here in 3 years. She says once every 10 years, she says, it rains up on the volcano up there. She says 120 miles away, and there's a 10-foot tidal wave of water that comes down through the valleys, the crevices and everything. It comes down through this valley here, and it just washes away everything. 24 hours of a 10-foot high river through here. And it'll kill anything in its path and take out every single tree and plant, house, and everything else. And they learned because they had built a mud house out there, and they got nailed. They weren't in the mud house when the flood came through, but it washed away their home, and so they relocated on high ground.
Can I ask you something about that? I believe you can answer. We were out there. You went to Carlsbad Cameron. There's an area where you can ride around. We were riding around.
Yeah, it's done.
I passed this sign that said area U.S. territory. I thought I was already in U.S. territory.
Apparently straight up over the border. Well, I didn't be aware of it. See, there's areas that they don't patrol because the climate is so bad. Anybody who would try to cross there would die before they would get across. It's one thing to drive a car, but if you're poor enough to become an immigrant, you'd want to die in starvation before you got across that border.
Well, yes, this is a stupid question, but anyway, I guess what's the trust good for? It's good for judgment protection.
Judgment protection,
That's the only thing?
holding company, pass on.
What's the value of the holding company?
No, it holds the property from generation to generation. If you die, there's no inheritance tax.
No, okay.
Your
All right.
family, beneficiaries get it.
I just didn't know what your language meant. Yes.
See, the only thing you're doing here is the beneficiaries inherit their certificates. Your trustee continues on.
Yeah.
And every time the trustee gets weak or is in question, you appoint a new trustee immediately. Or it's always good to have two trustees. If one quits, then the next one becomes first trustee and he appoints another one who has been brought up to speed on how to run the trust.
So now the trust has to file taxes. The trust
will only file taxes for one thing, the money.
That's just interest.
In any event, there's
Where does income? Show me how income works in this whole thing. Where's
the
income?
only place income is going to show up is in money. The house is not an income factor, the car, the furniture, everything else. If you've got a business trust that's actually generating $100,000 a year, yes, then the trustee is going to appoint a bailment manager who's going to be a CPA. And his job is to manage the books. He's going to report back to the trustee who's going to pay the taxes on the business. He personally has to sign it, the 1040s, or the 1041s, or the 1040Xs, whatever it needs to be, for the corporation trust.
So this doesn't provide any tax protection at all?
No, you cannot create a trust for tax protection. You cannot create a trust to avoid paying taxes. The point is, if there is a discrepancy, it's good to have these other trusts because they're holding units. They don't generate income.
Well, but
And only the money trust is the only thing that's going to happen. If they seize, the only thing they can seize is whatever money's in that trust, but everything else is protected.
Yeah, but they generate exemptions, for instance, interest on a home mortgage.
Yes, but that you can divide that up. The home mortgage is going to come underneath here because the home mortgage is going to be paid towards this. You don't join these two trusts together. But they're not joined as far as they're independent trusts, but you're still going to get the benefits for the cash flow. You got to weigh out how you're going to work it as far as your cash flow goes. And there you need to sit down with a CPA based on what state you live in. Down here, you guys don't have state tax. Wisconsin, we got a 12% state tax. It's pretty heavy up there. We're the second highest tax base in the whole United States. City of Milwaukee, Boston is like 1/10 of a point higher than us. Otherwise, we're number one in the United States, City of Milwaukee. They just did a couple of expansions up there. They put in a 140-mile wide sewer system for $3 billion. So it's to increase our population to 3 million people. And and we've got the best welfare program in the United States. So we've got all the welfare recipients living in Milwaukee County. It's a regular feeding, for instance.
That was funny.
And then 2 years ago, they started W-2, which they cut off every 85,000 mothers with children of all their income and said what's going to happen. They're going to do an experiment and see what happens if Social Security is disqualified. And these people moved all over the United States. So Atlanta, New Orleans, San Francisco, Los Angeles, Boston, New York, Chicago. They just scattered to the wind. Which reduced. We used to have 1,500 vacant apartments in the city of Milwaukee. We got 60,000 now. And the real estate business is sitting on a big white elephant. I get maybe one application to apply there every 5 or 6 months. That's all.
So where did everybody move to?
They just scattered all over. I cut everybody off financially. There was no reason to live there as far as welfare goes. So they didn't have to collect as much money for social programs. Milwaukee County alone accounts for half of all the welfare in the state of Wisconsin. Just one county. The other counties sued because on August 11, 1997, the state of Wisconsin unincorporated its counties. And said every county is liable for itself. That's what shut the whole thing off.
Did the state of Wisconsin unincorporate or just the counties?
The state unincorporated the counties because of my Title 42 lawsuits for the millions and millions of dollars. We got over $1 billion in judgments against the state of Wisconsin right now on default. So they said every county's liable for your own. Unless, Milwaukee gets nailed with a $100 million lawsuit, Waukesha County is not going to pick up the nickel for it. Or Dodge County, which is poor, and Adams County, which has only got a few thousand people in it. They're not, some of these counties are very, very sparsely populated, and they weren't going to take the hit on equal billing for the cities like Milwaukee County's got 1.6 million residents.
Well, that same thing starts down here, then wouldn't the state of Florida almost have to incorporate likewise? Or any other state with that?
Yeah, Florida hasn't beat up yet, but it's coming. I mean, the feeding frenzy is going to, as more and more people get educated, we should have standing capacity only in here today. But most of the people, like I've done so many seminars down here, those people that don't care, don't care. And those that do, the only time they come to me is when they're on the day of sentencing. Dave, help me.
Yeah, but they're willing to study on their own too, right?
Yeah, well, they want to,
They have support groups.
well, they have support groups in fiction. They think they're in the right course until they go into the jail and going, where were you guys when I needed you?
Let me be the devil's advocate for this.
Sure.
I own trusts already, okay, so I'm not anti anything, but if this is fundamentally the only thing this is doing for me is giving me judgment protection. It isn't doing anything else for me. It's complicating my life like hell, you know. And it's only giving me the only things of any value to me is judgment protection. Okay. If I've got the other knowledge that I have here, what do I need judgment protection for? I can beat him in court anyway.
That's correct.
So therefore, I don't functionally see the reason for this.
In
Now,
your special situation, that's true.
I really don't.
And currently, the rest of the information will allow you to go into any court in any country that you're doing international issues with and hit them for the same thing.
Yeah.
Will you swear for the affirmation and declaration of truth that your country's laws were in the truth? That you did not modify your nouns to take my property?
Right. That's the
answer
powerful
is-
thing.
And in the international court at The Hague, have already adapted my technology, and if you file a lawsuit in this program, in any court in the world, you can take it to The Hague and they'll honor it. You can take it to Russia, put up an American flag and say, this country stole my property, and put up their flag and sue them, even though you're an American citizen with their flag on your paperwork in Russia. Russia put up the same flag. All 250 nations, and that gives the world court the power under the Disabilities Act.
I mean, that's the powerful
If you
thing
don't,
for me.
if you don't know, I mean, if you didn't even know how to put it together, that one sentence of information took care of all your expenses for this
Okay,
year, because it gives you the absolute power over all jurisdictions in
Okay,
any
but
country.
that's sort of my point. Okay.
Right.
Now, if I'm getting sued 10, 15 times a year, I'm in the medical profession, I'm getting sued 10, 15 times a year, then maybe making myself judgment proof makes more sense at that point, maybe.
This would be good, yes.
If I don't anticipate ever getting sued in the course of my life, except some extreme situation, and just having knowledge and being prepared, it seems to me, is sufficient. Am I missing
Right.
something here?
No, you're correct.
Okay.
If you were in the medical profession, though, the same time that the insurance company, whatever insurance company came after you for a lawsuit, with this knowledge, you would immediately correct their insurance policies and sue them for fraudulent conveyance of language with the Secretary of State for issuing fraudulent insurance forms. That's a felony. That's a federal offense.
I think you'd handle it pretty well.
Oh, that's good for 50 years account. And then how many pieces of paper they want to throw at you. Each one carries a 50-year document.
So that's really the powerful tool here.
The power is in the knowledge.
The power is in the knowledge, and I don't know that we need to go to the complexity of this trust figure stuff.
Right. If you don't need it, don't even worry about it.
Because the trusts I'm using currently are, I believe, not, I know the language is good.
The minute the IRS finds out about, okay, now after September 17th, because they've done a maximum effort to get all this on the onshore trust nailed, after September 17th, they're going to go after the offshore trust. They already shut down the Antilles. They're going to go after Bermuda and the Caymans and all the rest of the Caribbean islands that have all this banking. And they're going to go after all these offshore trusts because they're not affiliated with bankruptcy. And they're wide open.
You're not affiliated with what?
The bankruptcy of the
yeah,
United States.
yeah.
So all these guys that think, well, we're protected, we got our money offshore when the United States collapses its money system, you're going to lose everything they got offshore. And they're gonna restructure this whole program.
Yeah.
How did it go into another?
I don't see how you lose everything offshore.
The International Monetary Fund controls every single island, controls all the banking on the planet except China and India. Those are the only two countries not affiliated, and that's half the population on the planet. Everything else is tied with oil and the IMF because Rothschild underwrote all the oil tanker shipments, so they tied up all that deal. All shipping on the planet is under the post office, which is under the Vatican, so they got that end of it pretty well tied up, at least 90% of it. When you look at this thing on a global basis, that Rothschild and Lloyd's of London and the post office have got this thing divided up between commerce, shipping, money. It's a guy like me pops up with the truth and it says, I own planet Earth. The whole planet's under my control because I own truth. You guys got fiction. And my truth has jurisdiction over your fiction. And in one bold stroke, I can capture the entire planet, provided with just a single broadcast of 3 billion homes. And everybody sits down and goes, I think we need to sit down and run this program. And then satellites could in the course of a week, they could put this program, these tapes on TV over and over again every single day for a week and bring the entire population of anybody who's intelligent enough to own a TV set and has enough money to learn this in any language because it translates with no loss intent.
So a properly written domestic trust could not have been taken this
They don't
year.
trust mine, and mine is a domestic trust,
Okay.
they are,
Right, that's right.
this is what we call onshore, offshore, because you are onshore in the truth, because the onshore is in the fiction. The fiction has no jurisdiction in the truth. So as long as you are onshore in the truth, you are protected by the military onshore. You go offshore, you've surrendered everything, and it's free to grab. Everybody offshore is highly, highly vulnerable, like they've never been vulnerable before.
Okay, so if you bring large amounts of money onshore from offshore transactions, okay,
The onshore people will not bother you because as long as the money keeps coming in from offshore, they need it here in the States to deal with. It's when you try and take money out of the country that you get in trouble. Greater Ministries was moving.
You bring it in and they're taking people out on money laundering when they bring it in.
Well, that's if they pay the taxes on it, and if they tie it with drug trafficking or whatever, they're looking at, well, how did you move this money in here, where did it come from?
Yeah, what's the story with Greater Ministries?
And pay the taxes. So what you're saying is you just go ahead and pay 50% taxes
No, you
Oh,
sue them to pay your taxes, it's the truth.
and don't pay.
No, you go in there under discovery, you say, I want to pay my taxes, I'm going to sue you to give me my money. I want to give you my money, but I want to know how to give it to you. And they say, well, we can't tell you how to give it to us. Just give me it. I say, no, I'm suing you for the truth, and you won't give me the truth. So you got to make a decision here. You either have jurisdiction in the truth, or you're a criminal, and you're the mafia. Get out of me, you got a gun to my head, you're trying to rob me. Well, they can't openly say that, so they got to say you don't qualify, because they have no truth.
Year to year, each year they have to.
So you have to prove your knowledge.
Each year.
Yep. Because each year is a separate entity.
Okay,
It's a different number.
I'm tracking. I mean, it's a lot to integrate.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of information today.
A lot of change.
People get
Well, it's a lot
overloaded.
of change of thinking for me from what I've been working on for a couple of years. So, thank
Yeah,
you.
you mentioned Greater Ministries. They're a church group that has like missions here and there. And
Yeah, they had a gold mine in North Africa, and they were,
I mean, a real gold mine.
yeah, they were going to pull $40 billion out of that gold mine, and they had contracts with the country over there, and they were taking money, they were selling gold onshore here, and using the money to finance that program over there. When they were taking the money offshore, they were, causing the national debt to go up, and so the government had to shut them down and stop the money from moving offshore. Because they weren't bringing the gold onshore, they were keeping the gold offshore as well.
What was it?
We'll talk about it later.
Yeah.
That's a private, that's a private.
Can a trustee be an accounting firm here?
I would say that, no, you could, but I wouldn't do that. I would have a separate trustee appointed for the management of the trust and then hire the accounting firm as a bailment, under a bailment contractor. The bailment contract does not have any affiliation with the trust in its ability to sign contracts, handle money. It only cuts the lawn, shovels the snow, puts gas and oil in the car, does the paperwork on the numbers, but then it goes back to the trustee to sign the checks.
Yeah, so the thing I'm trying to deal with is the work involved with the trustee on a volunteer basis or something like that. It seems like quite a bit.
Yeah, well, if you're gonna, there's no such thing as a free lunch, so if you're gonna have a business trust generate money, you've got money to pay the trustee.
So a friend, pay a friend.
Yeah, but then you're gonna have to offset it. You might be his trustee of his trust, you'll do his work, he'll do your work.
And do
One
that.
hand, sure, you do that. One hand washes the other, and we're always
And
protecting
you
each
can
other.
operate out of the same office.
Exactly.
No issue there.
Right.
No issues of certification.
No.
So that's the other thing, you don't do any certification at all on it, do you?
Right, you know what a TIN number is?
Yeah. Oh, make it up.
T period, I period, N period. Now the IRS calls it a TIN number. It calls it a tax identification number in this format because it's an adjective, noun. Punctuation makes this a trust identification number,
Yeah.
and you don't have to register a trust identification number. Because there's only one number that needs to be filed, and that's the money number. All the rest of them are secret,
But if
and
you
no one
don't,
ever knows it.
if you don't register, you don't get a bank account.
Right, but the bank only requires that you supply them with a TIN number. It doesn't identify what that abbreviation
But they're
is.
gonna
It's a
want to see
presumption.
I understand, but they're going to want to see the certification of the trust.
They want nothing from the IRS for a TIN number to open a bank account?
No, they always make a
No.
presumption when you give them.
Oh, so
No, not with the
I get one
IRS.
that says 59 dash whatever.
Well, you look at what the IRS trust number is and then make up your own.
Yeah.
Only you call it a trust identification number because it's identified on your paperwork as a trust identification number, except that document is not supplied to the bank.
But they want to see your documents.
They only want to see the cover page. They don't want to see the
Right,
record
Nations
indenture.
Bank wouldn't open an account for a trust. Nations Bank would open an account for a
A
trust.
lot of the banks have closed all activities with trust. They won't open any trust account for anybody because of the amount of seizures that are taking place. They don't want you to open a trust account, put $10 million in it today, and Wednesday the IRS is there after you've committed the money and just take all the money out of the bank. You're sitting there holding all this debt and you got nothing to back it up.
So they're not going to do it till the middle of September? Is that it?
I don't know what
So
they're
how
going
do
to
you-
do
how
in
do you-
September. That's anybody's guess.
So how do you bank with this, with your structure? Have you? Do you have
Yeah,
bank-
we got a guy named Cal Avila who does the banking. He's a 26-year trust banker out of California, Sacramento. He handles all that, how it gets set up and filed. He's an expert. He's an IRS, not an IRS, but a CPA, certified public accountant, 26 years. Worked with and hasn't paid taxes in 25 years. And he's been in court for 25 years and fought the IRS when he bumped into my technology. He's been not only, before he beat them on their codes, now he beats them with my stuff.
So you're saying
he doesn't qualify to
he'll
be
get your
taxed.
bank account? Is that what you're saying? What are you saying?
Yeah, he'll show you how to do the bank. That's where his expertise runs. I do the indenture part. He takes care of the banking. He charges a little service fee for that, but he's good at what he does. He also acts as a trustee, 62 years old. He also won the gold medal in 1964 at the Korean Olympics.
What's his
he's
name?
Cal Avila, A-V-I-L-A. C-A-L. Cal Avila.
I have one other quick question about this. The beneficiary, in essence, could be, upon your death, turn out to be the new grantor.
Could be the new grantor, could be your children, grandchildren, anybody you want. Could be another trust. If you want to put it in there, it could be a church, could be anybody you want to name. What it does is it removes the inheritance tax. I'll do that when you're in Florida.
If you have a trust for a house or something like that, and that's not taxable until you move it out of the trust. It wouldn't be taxable being passed on to heirs, right? Trust?
No, the trust would
Trust is
not.
passed on to heirs, right?
Right.
However, if you move the house out of the trust, and the trust sold the house, then
The trust could sell a house and then the money, if there's a capital gains involved, the trust would be responsible to pay that money. If you did a trade, as long as you buy up in value, there is no capital gains.
Right.
If you buy down, then you got to pay the capital gains on it. And like properties must represent like properties. If you sell a house and buy a commercial property, that's not a like property. Therefore, you have to pay the capital gains on the property before you buy a business property. Same goes in both ways. And if you let's say you sold a $100,000 home and bought a $60,000 home, you'd have to pay capital gains on $40,000 because that's the difference. But if it was the other way around, 60, you bought 100, it'd be nothing. And that's carried up to a 125, or I think you got now a $250,000 exemption up to the age, one-time exemption of capital gains. And that's only for your homestead property. Doesn't count for, because a lot of the homes, like in California, 20 years ago they bought it for $50,000, and today it's worth $500,000, just because of the supply and demand and the inflationary spiral. Where in the city of Milwaukee in 1975 you paid $50,000 for a home, today you only get maybe $55,000 25 years later. The city of Milwaukee has the lowest real estate values in the United States. They have highest taxes and the lowest real estate value in the United States. Our taxes go up every year based on inflation, but the property does not inflate, only the taxes inflate. And that keeps
It's not a
property
good
values
trend.
down.
That's not a good trend.
No, sooner or later it's going to go bang for the budget, so. Well, it's 5:30 here, we're close. I'm going to pushing it for 4 hours. Line behind Congress goes horizontal and this bankruptcy's open.
Okay, I'm down to a week here. What am I going to do?
I know they're trying to force this thing before September 17th.
Well, so what do I do at this point? Judge, my brother can't represent, so he's...
That's right, you can't. However, before the judge makes a declaration of incompetency, you could do a quick claim deed, whatever assets he has in his name could be quick claimed to you as a gift. And that's where you pick up on it. Or you put it into trust.
That's a better idea.
And make you the trustee. That way, you're the managing of the trust. He can stay living there because you make him bailment manager.
Actually, I was going to have him put it into trust for my daughter and have me keep it.
Even that, you put in trust for your daughter and you be trustee. How's your daughter?
15.
15. Oh, no, it's got to be over 18 years old. She can be a beneficiary through
Beneficiary.
because she's a minor, you have to be over 18 and under contract, so she can't have the trust, be part of it, just a beneficiary until she turns 18. Some states it's 21.
Okay.
But it would be better at this point to make you trustee, put it into trust, and then the beneficiary, the trustee could change, but your daughter would have to know this by the time she turned 18 years old. It's only written at 5th grade reading level. My daughter's 9 and she takes on her English, Social Studies, and Science teachers in school. And they've all, at the end of each semester, have quit, gone on to the university and quadrupled their income. Went from 28 to 65,000 a year income because they know this technology. So this is very, very strong position to be in with this technology because you cut through everything.
Well, how about this? How about if they grab it? Now we're substantially damaged, right?
If they grab it, you go for 4 times damages under a Title 42 lawsuit. These guys are facing criminal charges for jail. These guys are looking at 50 years in prison minimum. And you can take this to the world court. These will fly to world court or the Russian Supreme Court. And it won't take you more than probably 8 weeks, 10 weeks to get there.
How long to get paid? Forever.
No, because by the time you get this thing in and through, we'll have the railroad already set up. And it'll just be the process of everybody that stumbles in the United States is going to be filing offshore. We're even trying to get Toronto, Canada.
This doesn't seem to because I can't help it because
But he can't do anything.
He can't hire an
until
attorney.
it's damaged, correct? He has to be damaged first, which means they would have to take the property and bring the file title.
He's already damaged. Fictitious conveyance of language title.
Okay, that was, I'm sorry, I got sidetracked there. My first question
It's
was,
about
all these
procedure.
people,
It's always been procedure since day one below. It's been procedure.
all of these people have shown their hand, okay?
Because
Well,
they
my
never
brother
thought anybody could beat them.
Right, but my brother can't do it.
Right. The minute he makes you trustee, you can defend the trust. You don't need an attorney to defend your trust. You can go to bat for the property. You can make all this stuff property. Because you have 100, the trustee has 100%.
They've actually already committed these acts.
He's already damaged.
Yeah, it's already damaged because since you signed the original document, bought the property,
Right,
that contract was written in fiction.
right.
But the trust
And
wasn't.
now they're trying to recover the properties before you catch wind of this technology and sue them for fraudulent conveyance of language in the original title of the property.
But
That's
the
a
trust,
That's a different.
the trust is not damaged.
There's
No,
no,
he becomes
there's no
trustee.
trust. Yeah.
One, there is no trust
But
yet.
no, but if he became trustee, the trust hasn't been damaged.
Right.
So he can't sue them.
Yes, he can.
Okay,
He can sue for he can sue,
but not for the damages, not for group.
well, it would move it out. If you have a trust that's already, if you have a property that's already paid off, I just go get your second mortgage from the bank and zero out their cause of action. You still have all their paperwork to continue suing them. They don't have any action against you, but you have all the action against them as being an injured party. Because they asked for a specific amount of money using fraudulent language. You are joining with the fraudulent language, now testifying as an expert witness as a co-conspirator to create fraudulent language against the homeowners association. Going before the grand jury to get an indictment against all the rest of the co-conspirators, naming you as the expert witness to testify against everybody. You're immune, you get to keep your property, they go down and you get 4 times damages from the homeowners association.
Okay, I'm with you so far. How do I get the property into a trust while there's a cloud?
You could claim,
See, it's in check. I think that I can let that thing go. In other words, I don't have to fight the motion of the
you can go to the bank and they'll give you the mortgage, you go ahead and cancel out because you always had the assets there. You can go ahead and take out a mortgage to go ahead and pay off that portion of it, or go to a judge, bankruptcy judge that says, okay, we're going to get this second mortgage, it's going to pay off, zero out whatever this number is. As soon as this is done, then we're going to take the language and sue for fraudulent conveyance of language. I'm the injured party and I'm going to get back 4 times my money and pay this thing all back off. One hand wash.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, so the fine, it's $2,000 in back condo fees, $3,000 in attorney's fees. You get a note for that amount, pay them off, and then go back and get them for
For
their
$20,000 against that on large claims. Now the attorney fees, because the attorney created all language since day one, just like in the movie The Firm with Tom Cruise,
Right.
where they use fraudulent conveyance of language. That's
Mail
over
fraud.
billing, mail fraud, Title 18, 1342, and Title 18, 1341, bank fraud. Because he initiated contracts using checks. That's bank fraud because they fictitiously conveyed the language. Because you have knowledge of the law in the truth, it gives you federal authority to bring this before the grand jury to have the language corrected and cover or recover the injury of what they caused you. Because these people were high fiduciaries, they should have known what they were doing, but they didn't, and they caused you an injury. Because you have knowledge, you kept saying, talking to them, giving them warnings, telling them that they were criminally involved to fix it. And they said, no, you can't prove it, so therefore we're going to steal everything we can steal from you. But now you can prove it because you've got the algebra formula. And now what you say becomes law. I'm down here now. If I can coordinate a seminar down here, same time you go to court. Just like I did in Eppolito's case. Guess who was found not guilty and set free? Brown.
Why didn't anybody else be?
Because I was his expert witness. I took over the court, disqualified all jurisdictional. State of Florida, the United States federal government had no jurisdiction over Brown because I was called as his expert witness. They denied my testimony for all the rest because they gave up their right to contract and took attorneys. That's why they all got 38 years in prison, hard labor. And Brown was set free, and to this day, he's still free. He was at our seminar
He
here.
didn't have an attorney.
Exactly, he didn't give up his sovereignty. And I got in there, I proved the language was fraud, the jurisdiction was fraud, the rules of boxing were a fraud. It was a fraud from A to Z, and I could attack everything that was in there. It was very easy, and they found him not guilty of all charges. And they all sat equally, all 7 did the equal, same, identical thing, and yet he walked because he didn't return an attorney and go into parliamentary jurisdiction. And he had this technology to get him out, and that's why he's still free today.
The attorney. That was the point of contact.
Yep.
Okay, you go to Russia, they do the judgment, the United States defaults, Russia buys the judgment, and then gives the United States the bill, correct?
No. Russia could buy the judgment, but we have other countries that are bidding on the judgment. We get it getting 100 cents on a dollar.
Won't that create, I mean, this is what I'm thinking, is
Yes,
that
it's going to create quite a
the amount of money is just going to shoot through the roof to the point where no country is going to have debt with the United States, or we're going to owe everybody, and we're going to throw ourselves into our own bankruptcy. I mean, it's
Do you know how many of these are going to get through the system before they organize? 12 hours after the Russian Supreme Court called me and gave me the invitation, that was at Friday at 10 o'clock. On Saturday, the entire Postal Service worldwide was put on alert. On Monday, Congress had a bill on the floor to suspend the Freedom of Information, not the freedom, the privacy, the Right to Privacy Act in the United States, so they could open up all mail looking for the lawsuits that would get offshore. It was voted down unanimously. Because the couple guys that brought it were dirty and they didn't want to get caught. So they tried to push this bill through and it was thrown down. Then on Tuesday, 5 days after we got the Russian deal, the ambassador, this was on CNN at 10:10 in the morning, the ambassador for Russia was in conference with Gore on, that's after, that was 2 days afterwards, or a week later. The information on this technology, the Russian Supreme Court realized that all of its cabinet members also created the same fraud that we were charging the United States with. Yeltsin wants to go ahead and bring this forward in the truth because it'll immediately squash everything, making him the greatest prime minister in Russian history. And this is his ace up the sleeve. Yeah. Then the Russian ambassador in Washington, D.C. meets with Gore and wants a contract treaty negotiation so that all Americans can enter into free contract for capital gains with Russia, which is to give us a blank check on filing as many of these lawsuits with Russia as possible, except Russia didn't tell the United States the right to contract with private business. This is all about private business. What do you care lawsuits are? They're private business.
So what happened, what became of that meeting?
That's what the meeting was about, but it hasn't been disclosed. I haven't seen anything in the paper yet on it. I got everybody watching. Wall Street, News, Washington Post, everybody's got their ear to the table.
So they're gonna fix this stuff real quick. There will be some window for a few months where lawsuits will get through, but after that, they're gonna fix it.
So they are on top of this on an hour-to-hour basis. Some of these prices were before, but they keep very close tabs on me. I'll create a brand new document. I'll say, Jeff, I'm sending you a brand new document, and it takes an hour and 45 minutes to fax 10 pages on a fax machine. I'm going to be faxing to 600 judges around the United States simultaneously in every FBI office, so they all got a copy of the same first time out. Click, 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 click. My fax machine goes that slow, and I got a fast computer. I got a 5600 key. Fax machine is just that's how fast the photograph is sent to crystal clear. Click, 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 real slow like that. So load is on there. And I'm standing there talking to Jeff, sending this new document. Also, my fax machine green light comes on, click, click. The whole machine boots up and shuts down. They were just logging on, so that they could intercept. And then the next document goes through like a turtle. So the next day, I get a call from Oregon. He wants the same document. So I loaded back up. I type in his number, and it goes click, click, click. I just pick up the phone, even dialing. I go, hey guys, I said, you already got this document I'm sending you. I said, you got it yesterday about 4 o'clock, remember? I said, it's the same thing. Just starts fading through like that to shut it down. I realized I had the same document. I didn't have to answer the phone. I just pick it up and start talking to it. You guys want to bring over pizza and beer tonight? You know, it's just that. And they got me. I don't wire. Anybody calls me that, you know you're on FBI. You're being broadcasted all over the country.
So is my phone.
Yeah.
So is mine.
Doing it on your cell?
Yeah, my cell is
My cell's
also,
juicy as
my
well.
cell is, it's a frequency that's locked in anywhere in the United States. It all goes through Milwaukee. And every time I say, like when we first came out with the Postal Service information, every time I said the word post office, my signal died. I get a 5 by 5, phone's been cut off. I call back, post office, shuts off again. Post office, shuts off again. You know, how many times I was talking about the post office, it shut off, I couldn't get the signal, so I said, you know what? And what meant post office? And I was talking about the word what, and then they figured out that I was using code words, and every time I said that word, they shut it off. And it got to be a game of how to get through the gauntlet, you know? So, we developed when I talk to somebody
Talk
now,
about that.
I says, 14, 26, enough said. I just told you to read all the information on page 14, all the information on page 26. That's an 800-word sentence, two numbers. I hang up the phone, and that's it. My people are learning because they all got the same book, they all got the same number codes, so they can talk the number codes. And so it makes things really simple. Whenever you call me, make sure you got a tape recorder going. Go to Radio Shack, get one of those tape recorder interfaces for your telephone, hook the thing up, because if you want information, you'll get more stuff in 5 minutes from me, and you can learn in the law library in 5 months. And in 5 months, it won't make any difference. What I'm going to give you today works today before the government can get in place. So in that 5 minutes, you're going to I'm going to download a whole section of numbers to you. Then you go back to the book and you look up the numbers, and it'll be a 5,000 to 10,000 word document. That's what I just gave you in 10 minutes. Or 5 minutes.
If the courts are using your new material continually, what about the attorneys? Are they starting to put it into the colleges and the universities and things where the attorneys
They're still
are
protecting their fiction. Only the judges have possession of this. If an attorney even uses a phrase out of the book, he's disbarred or put on a notice.
Don't you think they'll eventually teach these attorneys to start using material?
Well, this is where we're going to bring it in through the colleges. When the law schools have to compete with the private universities. The private universities are teaching truth, whereas the law schools are teaching fraud. Every lawyer in America will be kicked out of society. They will be the gravel of everybody's dirt.
Good. Well deserved.
Right. Now, I'll give you here's a new thing. Not a new thing. Graphs.
This is a procedures thing?
This is doing graphing.
Is this all the checklist?
Yeah. You got yours with you?
Me? I never read one.
What's his name brought his? I'll get one here.
You got like the super.
You get one. Anyways, this here is a 100-year stock trading from the year 1920 through 1990, actually 80 years. And it shows you in 1929, when we came out of bankruptcy, the biggest one-day crash on the whole chart. And we're 70 years later, and the same approach progression takes place. And the interest rates went down instead of up. And they had this big rally. Every single one of the bank stocks. But what happened here is the same thing in 1929. There was a bank rally for dropping interest rates to pull more and more people in at the end of the bankruptcy, so that they would put all the money into the banks and make everything and go for a maximum commitment. This is why they go for all the credit cards too. Everything. They're passing out credit cards like candy, so that they get everybody so tied up in debt that they got to renew the bankruptcy. That's what they're trying to intimidate for the last 4 weeks here. But
Get credit
I
cards.
used to collect them. I used to throw them in the drawer in the house. So here, black card, gold cards.
Pre-approved.
Yeah, that's all the trap money there. The gold, price of gold in the last 3 weeks went from 241 to 268. And the gold stocks have jumped up 25 to 30% across the board because they're all anticipating.
What about the England was dumping theirs?
They were.
They were a while back.
Guess what? England and Switzerland Switzerland dumped 1,400 tons and England dumped 1,200 tons of gold. Guess who brought it? Rothschild, International Monetary Fund. Took it out of this hand and put it in this hand. What happened when they dumped and caused the price to go from 350 to 240? All the little guys sold their gold too, and Rothschild bought all that up. We're looking for gold between $2,000 and $3,000 an ounce in September when it goes ballistic, just like it did in '79.
Well, I thought they did that just to get people to sell it, so they could convert the paper money and then dump the paper money.
'79 was the big flop. And that even shows here on this chart, 1979. There was a correction. The recession here. See the dotted line? That's where she crashed. It crashed again here, price of gold. And it even stipulates on here that the dotted line is quarterly. Earnings per share times 15 is what they've got for the dotted line.
Can you flip that around, Dave?
Huh? Oh, that's
No, just gives you an
diagonal.
idea.
What if a company like Walgreens, like my mother is a pharmacist at
Take a
Walgreens,
picture of it.
that stock is privately held with only the employees or the only people that can buy Walgreens stock. So does that mean it'll probably be effective to the 17th?
Walgreens is in commercial, yeah, that sucker's gonna go take a nice dive. You know why? Because when people don't have money to spend in Walgreens, it's gonna take, you probably lose 10 to 20% the first day.
They don't have money to buy the drugs.
They don't have the money to buy anything, therefore the sales immediately are reflected, and it's the employees would be selling, except if only employees can own it. The employees at the top will be selling, and the employees at the bottom will know what's hitting them. They're just gonna know they're getting value.
Is this what triggers, I mean, I used to be a broker years ago, and I know people used to put in orders to sell to maintain a profit. And if it hits a certain point, say your stock drops 3 to 5 points, and then you get bought 10 to 15 points less than that, you got a profit, it automatically goes. Well, if you got a big drop in the whole market overall, all these orders to sell automatically kick in, and that just accelerates the process.
Okay, right now they've got an automatic that all computers are ordered shut down below 50 points. If there's any 50-point movement on the stock market on any day, the stock market really shuts off and has to do trading physically on a human factor. They cannot use computers if the market moves more than 50 points in a day.
Why is there?
That's to prevent, because these computers are all got trip mechanisms and they go into automatic. And that's where you have a 500-point shift in one day.
87.
In 87 it did it, 79 it did it. Black Tuesday, October 29th, I lost a quarter on that day. I had 5,000 shares of Heckle Mines at 5 and 10 minutes to 3 on Monday. I sold it at 5, opened at 8 3/4 on Tuesday, and went to 52 by 10 minutes. I lost my breakfast on old newspaper, and I just lost it. I talk about a shock. It was like somebody threw cold water at me when I realized what had happened. And I couldn't buy it back faster. And then the stock I bought, this is 1979, was Samuel's Restaurants, which 4 days later was sued for a discrimination suit because Samuel's was a black discrimination, so the NAACP filed a suit. Immediately for about 4 times its gross national product, and they filed bankruptcy. The stock went from $10.75 a share down to 10 cents a share in 1 day, and then went down into oblivion. Just was disbanded, and so that was a complete wash. I mean, I didn't get people out of that. Just like taking 25 grand and putting cash to it, blowing it up. They went down so fast, even the marketing accounts, because they suspended trading for like 6 weeks. Just went there, 1075 suspended, came back on the market at 10 cents a share. Cool. There was no employee. And that can happen, you know. This way, stay away from restaurants, clothing stores, all that stuff. And then commodities, gold, silver, or oil, any of the rest. All right, well, that's, we'll get into that in a minute. Okay. This is a chart. Oh yeah, you can blow these up as big as you want. Now, Ken Hearn out of Las Vegas, he works with me. His chart is, I think we just about wrap around this room. It's got a total of 78 people with 440 violations. Do the math, that's 4,500 violations on it. So this chart now, what is it? It's a shopping list. And that's how you would address it. So we're going to go ahead and write it up on the board here and show you a simpler format. On top, you'd have your judge, because he runs the show, a DA, and we're going to go with clerk. We're just going to put 3 people down, okay? You can put as many as you want across the top. The very first thing that takes place in any given environment is knowledge. That would be a title, 42, 1986. You must prove knowledge before you can make a determination that you have been injured by anybody. The second thing you do once you establish knowledge is the Federal Rules of Civil Procedure 60B. That's discovery. This is all in your book already, by the way. It's on the page called Charts. The third thing that takes place is the Federal Rules of Civil Procedure 26E, and that is the reporting of the fraud that you have discovered. The next thing would be a 1986 for neglect. Title 42, 1986.
First one's knowledge, second one is
Discovery.
discovery.
Third one is reporting to a judge or to a military officer. Now, it is it is the Federal Rules of Civil Procedure 26E that says that if your circuit court or your district court is under a yellow fringe flag, which is a foreign entity, you do not have a sovereign judge on the bench. Therefore, there is no judge in your jurisdiction. So you get to go to the military JAG officer and file your complaint with him using the jurisdiction of a 26E under the federal rules, because all military is federal.
You do that with postage stamp and such?
Yes, because the post office has jurisdiction over the military. So by filing it at the post office as registered mail, you have now registered in the military, which now gets a JAG officer jurisdiction. Because you wrote your contract in the truth as a noun format. There is no deception in the fiction. The post office must use their in the truth doctrine, that when you put your $1 postage stamp on top of the document and sign it, you then cancel it, becoming the postmaster, postman. Postman is senior court barrister. So you take jurisdiction in the truth over your document and then file it with the JAG officer. The post office will deliver it. If they won't deliver it, you can deliver it. As the postman, you are authorized because you put a stamp and cancel it on top of the document. So that gives you the power to go into the federal territory in the military and file a document with the JAG officer. Because we have filed so many of these across the United States, we have tripped their learning curve, and now the JAG officers on all the bases have had to study this new technology, as well as the postmasters in every jurisdiction. And even these little tiny, out-of-the-way, backwater post offices, where it stands memorandum from the Home Office of the Postmaster General to come up to speed on their jurisdiction as a postmaster, and how much power they have over the judges for their immediate jurisdiction. They can call out the troops, they can call out the postal inspectors, they have jurisdiction over the sheriff's department, the police officers, everybody, the postmaster does, because they are the sovereign corporation over the fiction.
Would this work in a military aspect, or that's something completely different?
It would work in the military because the military is under the postmaster. He controls that factor.
Well, I was just saying, like, let's say you're in the military and you get discharged for some reason that you don't believe is correct, you know.
Right, we have a case like that right now. With Moore's case, he was a captain, and so he's now moved forward to sue for recovery of his title and the wrongful language that was used to discharge him, because he sued in the truth, and they said, no, you can't be in the truth, you gotta be in the fiction. And he says, well, that goes against my oath. I swore to defend and protect America, and now you're telling me I have to commit a fraud against America, or I can't be in your military. I'm going, something's wrong here. All of our guys went to war and died for freedom. They went and died for the flag, which meant the freedom of the contract. Now, I've got a 1922 silver dollar with me, and I have a 1942 half dollar, and both of them have United States of America. Union, all punctuated on the coin, so they are all nouns.
They're not on the newer coin?
No.
What years?
I got 1922.
That's interesting.
It's right
You got
here.
that with you?
Yeah.
1922 silver dollar, huh?
All silver dollars.
All?
The real silver.
I know they're all nouns, but even though, can they represent the of without an article?
Page 20.
Here, sure. I don't think they're done either.
It's in now.
Yep, they got punctuation on equals also.
Right, it's up and all. Look, wait a
It's in here, this one's kind of wore down.
That's kind of a dot, so you can like separate.
Well, that's your hyphens.
Yeah.
Punctuation. That is period, which means end of thought, making each one an independent noun.
Was all this started after Roosevelt took office? I mean, as far as a lot of the...
Roosevelt created the fraud. These were three Roosevelts.
Yes.
Money. After he died, then it went.
42, he was still around.
No, the eagle doesn't.
Yeah, he was still there for 45.
Eagle doesn't have punctuation.
Right, that's the new money.
Yeah.
So does the Queen, that's your Canadian maple.
Yeah.
But, you know, the guys say a lot of punctuation doesn't, I said, it's right there, that's been on the books. In 1834, Congress passed a law that all compound nouns in the United States, New-York, North-Carolina, North-Colorado, North Carolina, South Carolina, North Dakota, South Dakota, all have to be hyphenated.
What year?
1834. We dug that out of the archives.
And they don't do that.
And that's been,
You see the old stuff. I have an 1819 book out in the car.
I even got the original 1789 Constitution in New York. On that.
I was saying with Rhode Island.
And Washington, D.C. is the same way, New Hampshire. It's all done, they're all signed and hyphenated back then.
What did you write after 1986?
1980,
What did you write there?
1986 is neglect.
Neglect, okay.
And then after that, you've got Title 18, 1001, which is the fictitious conveyance of language. After that, you got Title 18, USC 3, which is an accessory after the fact, because you've been told a fiction, you are neglect under discovery of the reporting of the knowledge, you didn't stop to correct the wrong. Then you got a Title 18, 242, which is under color of law, which is the law of the flag, and you're obstructing it. After that, you've got a Title 18, 1342, which is mail fraud, because all this information is not going to be correlated and sent through the post office. So, and then after that, you can get into a Title 42, 1985. Subsection 1 is conspiracy. guilty. Subsection 2 is obstructing the witness and obstructing the evidence before the court. And subsection 3, this is for obstructing, and this is for depriving evidence and witnesses before the court to testify to create apartheid and both genocide of the issue. So the district attorney and the judge act together for the apartheid and genocide against the individual under 1985. That falls to a Title 18, 1512, is obstruction of justice. That carries a 15-year prison sentence for these two. It's the civil, it's the criminal side of it. So you go back and you look at these here, and the individual, this is your shopping list. You're going to be presenting this to the court, and at the same time, the jury members get this also. Now, for you to stay on point, you want to do this in a conscience, constructive presentation. And so you're using this format because it takes a chain of events that goes first, second, third, fourth, and so on. And you give the jury the chain of events, and you also give them a corrected format of definitions. You don't use government definitions because they're written in fiction. You will use only our definitions in the book. The parties down the side is their shopping list, so they can sit there with a blank piece of paper, and just like you walk down and got my bread, my milk, my eggs, and check it off, and say, oh, well, here they're checking off.
He likes that one.
They check it off, and they say, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I'm the foreman of the jury. Did Mr. Miller prove they had knowledge? Yeah, he's got a 6-year college degree, he's got a 4-year college degree, he's got a 10-year college degree, and he's got 20,000 cases as a judge under the belt. Yeah, I think he's got knowledge. I think it's a reasonable request. Did he do discovery? Well, he's got 4 inches of paper, forensic paperwork there with all of signatures and fraud and everything else. Yeah, was discovery initiated? Yep, he proved that. Filed it with the clerk, gave it to the DA, took it to the judge. They all had knowledge. They all had discovery.
The jurors check this off?
Yeah, the juries are checking this off.
Discovery is
Not-
being,
And the jury review. Right.
but this discovery is that you've told them that there's a problem.
Right. We are presenting this procedure in the court.
Oh, and they're checking this off as you go along.
You're right.
Yeah, but it's also,
Right, though.
But then as a jury foreman, I stand in front of the other 11 jury members, I say, ladies and gentlemen, jury, did Mr. Miller prove this issue in court about what we're talking about here? And then they've all got their checklist in front of them. And they're checking off these things, and this is the way they're voting.
you gave him the checklist.
Right.
The jury recommended.
So this is the way they're voting. Did he report to the court? Of course, that's why we had a trial, so we got those checked off. Did they prove neglect? Well, yes. Here, he showed how the knowledge is, and here they didn't stop and correct it. That's why they've got all this paperwork. There should have been one form that was presented and then corrected that would have removed the issue. Well, they filed 30 more forms. I mean, it's these people's idea that they're going to obstruct it. No matter how much truth you give them, it's their intent to cause a neglect. So therefore, they get that. And what is it? The fictitious conveyance of language for the extortion of rights. They're acting together as a conspiracy, so it's necessary after the fact because they were given the notice. They put up yellow French flags thinking that fiction was going to protect them against truth. It doesn't. It creates perjury and obstruction of the contract. Then they sent all these documents back and forth through the mail fraud. They then obstructed, they acted together to form a conspiracy. They were obstructing the evidence and the witnesses. They were depriving the evidence and the witnesses to the court. They were guilty of obstruction of justice. And so now we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 times 3. You got 36 just here. And we've got 42 of them on the list. And usually we got about 10 people involved here, so you could have maybe 400 causes of action. But the law requires you ask for a minimum of $75,000 per injury on this checklist. 75,000 times 36 gives you $2.6 million. That would be a reasonable number.
Okay.
And that's what the jury would bring back, a $2.6 million judgment against them And if you look at this, the jury says, well, did Mr. Miller get injured? Well, I think so. I mean, he filled in all the blanks. It isn't just this was an accident, it wasn't a presumption. It was an organized conspiracy of deception.
Does this apply to my brother's case?
Especially your brother's case.
Now, what
This
about
thing is as clean as a whistle, and you know what your mind does? Your mind works on mathematics. You can consolidate 10,000 words of a lawsuit right there in one picture.
That's true.
And your mind stays organized. You're saying, well, I get up in front of an audience and I freeze.
Turn to that.
That's right. You take the chart. Okay. You take the chart and you hold the chart up and you got a shopping list. And once you get used to it, do a couple
Shopping list, jury.
Yeah.
Organized conspiracy, what'd you say? It's an organized conspiracy of...
It's an organized conspiracy of the parties that you're suing. They've acted together. They all had, because they work together, they're friends, so they all try to protect the friends.
Okay. Do the private, or in like for my back to my brother's case, none of the board members of the condo association would, if they don't have knowledge, they wouldn't be able to write. Except for
Okay,
conspiracy.
This is where you give them knowledge. You give them all a courtesy notice 10 days before you file a lawsuit and ask them to go ahead and correct it. You spell out the language. They can do anything they want. What's the remedy to a math problem?
There isn't one. It's absolute.
There isn't one. It's absolute. So who cares if you tell them what the secrets are? Who cares if you tell them how to work the problem?
They have to resolve it for you before
They have to read, they have to adapt the absolutes of the mathematics of it.
Right.
Otherwise, they're saying 2 + 2 = 6. 2 + 2 = 6, and we're gonna stand on that. I'm going, wait a minute, I just showed you that 2 + 2 = 4. And now you're saying you're gonna stand on 6 and go to court and fight me? And how are you gonna build a defense against an absolute math problem?
Right.
There isn't. You can support it because it's in the truth, but you can't deny it because now you've obstructed truth.
What do your numbers mean that are written in on the chart here? Handwritten numbers in the grid?
Oh, that's when the grid was created by the man who created it. He was creating this in California, and I was on the plane drawing it on the plane. When we both landed, he walks up and says, look what I did. And then I held up mine, and they were both the identical charts. We were 2,000 miles apart when we drew them. We didn't converse with each other about how we were going to end the chart. We both had a chart that had the lines angled like that. He angled them down the side, and I angled them up on top. What does it look like in the reflection of a mirror? Turn 90 degrees. We both had the identical charts, and they were produced at the same point in time, and on the same day, with the same ideas and the same sites. Only difference was my angles were down the side and his angles were across the top.
And you have written in the boxes there, the 4, 17,
Yeah.
16.
Okay, in that case,
Or 1/3.
right, in that case, we had used all the 42s together, all the 18s together, and all the Federal Rules of Civil Procedure together.
Section 1.
But that's not how it goes. You go from Title 42 to Federal Rules of Civil Procedure to Title 18, Title 42. So you're going, it creates a series of events. And that's why, if you look at the chart, on the chart page, and the way the chart page is written up, it goes back and forth through all these different procedures. So you want to build your chart in the same procedure as the flow chart, in the same way the book is made up. You don't want to follow one like this, that's why you took it out of there. I haven't built one yet.
So you're saying there is a proper sequence?
Yeah, now Ken, for instance, he took the chart and he put it on disk, and he charges like $40 for a chart. He's got probably 500, maybe 600 hours in that chart to write all the definitions, incorporate all the title states, in all the proper procedures, and then all you've got to do is add the names. You don't have that time. You don't have hundreds of hours to spend to build and program a computer when it's on disk. So you just go and you pop it in there, it comes up on your screen, you fill in the blanks, and you're in and out of that thing.
Who has that?
Kim Hearn's got that.
Kim?
Kim, K-E-M, Hern, H-E-R-N. He's in a wheelchair, and he's living. When Kim met me, he was bankrupt, living from one Social Security check to the next. And I got him involved with this technology. And he's working probably 120 hours a week in a wheelchair. Between the videos that he shoots for me, does the soundtracks, and the lawsuits. He's got 11 lawsuits worth over $1 billion. He asked 20%, and now Russia's willing to pay out on all these, so he's going to be able to get his life back, maybe even have surgery to his legs back, because he got a lot of his legs in a car accident. He's a Vietnam vet.
Great.
He sells his kids.
And so he's looking for the recovery. He's working to save his life.
Right.
And I hear other people get up there and they've got their health and, oh, I can't do this and I can't do that. And I'm going, Kim's sitting here in a wheelchair with all the handicaps in the world, and he's got a brain and he knows how to type on a computer. He didn't know how to type before he even knew this stuff. He learned how to...
His address and his phone number, please.
You know how much he wants for that?
$40.
$40 for that. I don't.
What city?
He's in Las Vegas. He just got a new phone number. He just set up housekeeping. Let's see. I haven't updated this anymore. No, I don't have
Is he listed?
Tim? Yeah, you can just call information in Las Vegas. He's the information.
H-E-R-N-S.
Burns, yeah.
Kearns or Kearns?
K-E-R.
Oh, K. K-E.
No, Hearn. Ken Hearn. I'm sorry. Hearn. H-E-R-N-S. Hearn. So this chart takes a complex problem of a lawsuit and it puts things into perspective so that your mind can work on a grid. And it's very easy once you understand mathematics to work on a grid. And you won't get nervous, you won't get out of point. You can set up, if you want to teach this in college, like you, Jason, if you want to teach this, you set your program up the same way. Today we're going to learn about knowledge. Tomorrow's class we're going to learn about discovery. And if you get the Federal Rules of Civil Procedure and you take each one of these title sites and you define a corrected identification of this program, you can make a weak program out of discovery. That's a really good one, especially with continuation of evidence and stuff. You can put down thousands of hours of classroom activity, advanced courses. I mean, there's no end to how much. You got to go to college for 6 years for crying out loud to get a law degree, because there's that much information. And as you start thinking about converting all that information into a present tense jurisdictional statement, you got yourself a lifetime of teaching in an organization that every time you teach a course constructively, you put it on tape, you edit it down, and when you get all done, you got yourself a TV program that after a while is consolidated. You can broadcast out to 100,000 students across the United States. And even though you're doing a 1-hour tape that's running, you're not even in class, you're probably out fishing in a boat, your tape's running, you got 100,000 students in the United States paying you to watch that video from the college to get an accredited course on it.
For certification.
And for certification, right, and they will pay for that, and you're making $10,000, $20,000 an hour because you got it on tape, and every time that tape plays, you're getting that much money back. Here's one of a new career. You want to learn how to do something you thought you couldn't do before?
Yeah, I'm interested.
And you look at how much written material, every union in the United States that's dealing with a corporation is a multi-million-dollar exercise if they got a union. Their union contracts. All the trusts that they have for their 401ks have to be rebid. There is 25 million trusts that need to be corrected. This is an exponential work assignment that you guys will never exhaust, and your minimum starting pay is $100 an hour. You can make $500 an hour, you can make $1,000 an hour, provided you got this thing on tape, selling tapes, organize, coming guest speakers, do presentations with corporations. But you got to know it, like I do. I just stand up here and you can just download. I don't usually notice, I don't usually notice.
Right, yeah, no.
We took this presentation and they transposed it into a book. What you guys heard today, me speak, is a 535-page book. This is what I gave you orally. And then if you take what you got in the book in front of you and add another 8 hours of tape with the tape presentation, you got an 835-page book at 400 words per page, 8.5 by 11. And these are only 115-page books, so you're looking at a stack of information this thick.
And you can't speed read it.
Huh?
Can't speed read it.
Yeah, I'm going through probably 200 words a minute when I'm talking.
Well, maybe you, but not.
It took them 5 months to download one 12-hour tape and type. They had a voice-activated computer doing the printout as fast as they were able to correct the corrections of the computer. It took 5 months. So it's Jack Beecham, as a matter of fact, his organization was the one that did the transposing, but that was in the January tape, and they didn't get that finished until June of last year. And about as fast as they got it done, I said, change the program. Start over.
Where's the, you said 75,000 per count? Where does that exist?
On January 19th, 1996, the United States Supreme Court made a ruling, and that was in Title 42, 1985, that any personal injuries that are incurred will generate a $75,000 per claim. And I've got that in my old books. I ceased to use anything that the Supreme Court used because they're in bankruptcy and nothing they do is law. It only works for fiction. But I use it as a guideline for you to ask for damages because that is the norm.
That's the norm.
Right?
Was there a different one where you could ask for so much depending on what happened to you, 2,000 for this?
Well, all because this technology accelerated to a degree and it scared everyone, all 50 states then immediately put a cap for personal injury of anywhere from $50,000 to $350,000 was the cap for injury. No matter how many injuries you occurred. They said in whatever specific area of injury took place, it was a couple of months, the maximum amount of money you could ask for is $350,000.
Is that?
Short of you being paralyzed or paraplegic, something like that, you always had the ability to recover and take this to the next degree. And because you can do that for every single injury, 350, every time you walk, every day you get up, somebody's injuring you someplace with this kind of technology. So, yeah.
When you do, these are all things for people who have the knowledge. And you were saying before that if I give them notice that, hey, look, you're making a mistake here, don't do it.
Educate them.
Educate. Now they have the knowledge, so now they join all these guys.
Exactly.
Okay, when the judgment comes against them, that's still a private judgment. They don't have to be part of the government or anything. They just
It's private judgment.
Private
You can take
judgment.
over you can own the whole condo association before you know.
somebody told me that the other day. Yeah, but I don't know.
Okay, once you give these people this information, you give it to them saying, listen, I heard that there's this program out there that says you guys have broken the law. This whole condo association is illegal, and you guys are in serious trouble of going to jail for the rest of your lives or being sued out of existence. So I'm going to be your friend. I'm coming here to help you. I'm the best security you have. Here's what the lawsuit looks like. It's a blank check. Read it, because in 10 days, I understand this guy's going to sue you. You're not telling me you're it. You're just there to protect them. Now, in 10 days, you file another lawsuit, but their name's on it this time. Let's say if they can unravel this thing. It doesn't have an unravel. It's in the truth. And you've got all the forensic evidence that has been generated since you signed the contract for the mortgage on the place.
Well, it's not really the mortgage, it's like the fees associated.
Yeah, it's the condo fees. No, the condo fees, the attorney's fees are what we can't pay because he keeps going up every time.
No, the attorney fees are no more than just like this, these tobacco boys charge $100,000 an hour for a $208 billion decision. All these millions of people that joined as a class action to sue for injury got nothing. The attorneys, 65 attorneys walked away with all the money at $100,000 an hour for the fees. That has been raved about all around the world as being grossly incompetent. And so now attorneys think they got a blank check to ask as much money as they want for anybody, anytime. Even if you walk past them in the hallway, they're going to walk around and hand you a bill for $100,000 because you looked at them the wrong way. This is the kind of literacy.
Did they get the money?
Oh, by the way, now you take this technology and walk over to the tobacco company and say, guess what, boys and girls? The whole lawsuit was fraud. You get to sue for 4 times damage against the Lawyers Association for $816 billion because they used fraudulent language to extort $208 billion.
Put the heck yeah,
What do you think the commission would be for that little bit of information?
You'd have a lot.
To stop the entire thing and put a restraining order against the $208 billion and nobody ever gets paid anything because every noun is used as the verb in the entire lawsuit. Of course, how big of a target do you think you should have placed on you?
Yeah.
How much do you think they would pay to silence that information? Okay.
Well, that's a matter of time,
It's
though.
only 7 o'clock.
The geometric progression will eventually, somebody won't care about that because they had somebody that died from cigarettes.
All right.
Boom.
You can turn off the tape on who Doris talks about.